Welcome back, guys. This is Potter Fan Figure. Here we explore powerful Harry Potter world stories and hidden magic. This video is self-recorded and fully created in the line with YouTube's latest policies. What is Fawkes spread Harry's power shortening Dumbledore's plan revealed? If you enjoy epic magical videos, subscribe to Potter Fan Figure. Now let's story begin.
Chapter 1. The Sorting Begins. The black lake stretched like a sheet of polished obsidian beneath the midnight sky. Harry Potter pressed his forehead against the cold glass of the carriage window, watching the distant lights of Hogwarts shimmer across the water's surface. The castle stood ancient and proud, spires reaching toward a blanket of stars, windows glowing warm amber against the darkness. For the first time in his life, somewhere deep in his chest, a small flame flickered. Home. The word felt foreign. Wrong, even. He'd never had a home. Only a cupboard. Only the Dursley's cold hatred. Only the aching loneliness of a boy who didn't belong anywhere. But this place, this castle. It called to him. "You're shaking." Harry turned. Ron Weasley sat across from him, freckled face half lit by the soft glow of the lantern swaying above them. His second-hand robes were slightly too short at the wrists, but his grin was genuine, warm in a way Harry wasn't used to. "Just cold," Harry lied. Ron nodded, accepting it easily. That was something Harry noticed about Ron. He didn't push. He didn't pry. He just existed beside Harry like a solid wall against the storm. "Don't worry about the sorting," Ron said, misreading Harry's tension. "My brother said it's not that bad. Fred said you just have to fight a troll, but..." He snorted. "He's lying." "Probably." "Probably? With Fred you never know." The carriage lurched forward. Harry grabbed the edge of his seat, heart stuttering. Through the window, he watched the carriages ahead begin their slow ascent toward the castle gates. Horseless, according to Ron, though something about that made Harry's scar prickle faintly. Horseless? He could have sworn he saw something shifting in the darkness beside the nearest carriage. Something skeletal. Something watching. But then the moment passed, and the carriages rolled through the towering iron gates, and Harry forgot to breathe entirely. The Great Hall. He'd read about it in Hogwarts, history, the battered copy he'd found tucked away in a forgotten corner of flourish and blots. But reading and seeing were two different things. Thousands of floating candles drifted above them like frozen fireflies, their light catching on the golden plates and goblets already set across four long house tables. The ceiling, enchanted to reflect the sky outside, showed a perfect canopy of stars, scattered clouds drifting lazily across the endless dark. And the students. Hundreds of faces turned toward the first years as they filed into the hall. Some whispered behind their hands. Others stared openly at him. Harry felt their gazes like physical touches, crawling across his skin, searching for something he wasn't sure he wanted them to find. The Potter boy. Harry Potter? I thought he'd be taller. Did you see the scar? Harry's jaw tightened. He resisted the urge to touch his forehead, to hide the lightning-shaped mark the way he'd hidden it all summer beneath two long bangs. But the whispers followed him anyway, weaving through the candlelit air like smoke. Ron nudged his arm. "Ignore them." Easy for him to say. Ron's family was famous in their own way, pure-blood lineage, respected, normal. Harry was, what? A relic? A tragedy with a pulse? Stop. He forced himself to breathe. To focus. At the front of the hall, a worn, patched wizard's hat sat perched on a three-legged stool. Harry stared at it, confused. This was the sorting hat. The thing that would decide his future? It looked like something Aunt Petunia would have thrown away without a second thought. And then the hat twitched. A rip near the brim opened like a mouth, and the sorting hat began to sing. In times of old, when magic burned, and Gryffindor's courage brightly turned, when Hufflepuff's loyalty held the line, and Ravenclaw's wisdom made minds shine. Harry listened, barely hearing the words. His attention had drifted, pulled upward, toward the staff table at the far end of the hall. Professors in dark robes sat in a long row, watching the first years with expressions ranging from mild interest to open boredom. a tiny professor with flyaway gray hair, a stern-looking woman with square spectacles, a pale man with greasy black hair who stared at Harry with undisguised disdain. But one figure dominated Harry's focus: Albus Dumbledore. The headmaster sat at the center of the table, his silver beard cascading down the front of deep purple robes dotted with golden crescent moons. Half-moon spectacles perched on his crooked nose. His blue eyes, piercing even from this distance, seemed to twinkle with a private amusement. Except, Harry frowned. Dumbledore wasn't watching the Sorting Hat. He wasn't watching the students, or the other professors, or the ceiling full of stars. He was watching Harry. And it wasn't the warm, grandfatherly gaze Harry had imagined when Hagrid described the greatest wizard alive. It was intense. Studying. Calculating. Harry felt a chill race down his spine that had nothing to do with the drafty hall. The headmaster's eyes didn't twinkle, they measured. Like Harry was a puzzle Dumbledore had been trying to solve for years, and tonight, the final piece was about to click into place. So put me on, don't be afraid. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, your future's waiting to be made. The hat finished its song with a flourish. The hall erupted in applause. Harry clapped mechanically, his skin prickling under the weight of Dumbledore's attention. Right then! Professor McGonagall's sharp voice cut through the noise. She stood at the front of the first years, a scroll clutched in her hand. When I call your name, you will come forward, sit on the stool, and place the Sorting Hat upon your head. She unrolled the parchment. Abbot Hannah! A girl with blonde pigtails stumbled forward, trembling as she sat down. The head dropped over her eyes. Silence. Then, Hufflepuff! The table on the far left erupted in cheers. Hannah stumbled toward them. Grinning, her fear forgotten, Harry barely watched the next few names. His focus kept drifting back to Dumbledore. The headmaster hadn't moved. His hands were folded on the table before him, long fingers pressed together like a steeple. But his eyes never left Harry's face. Why? What was so important about watching him? Bones, Susan, Hufflepuff. Boot, Terry, Ravenclaw. Brown, Lavender, Gryffindor. Harry's stomach twisted tighter with every name. He could feel the weight of the hall pressing down on him. The whispers, the stares, the suffocating expectation of being Harry Potter, the boy who lived. But Dumbledore's gaze was the heaviest of all. Granger, Hermione! A bushy-haired girl Harry recognized from the train hurried forward, muttering about spells she'd already mastered. The hat barely touched her head before shouting, Gryffindor! She beamed and hurried to the cheering red and gold table. Longbottom, Neville! Neville, the round-faced boy who'd lost his toad on the train, actually ran toward the stool, looking like he might be sick. The hat deliberated for a long moment, its brim twitching. Gryffindor! Neville stumbled toward the table, and someone in the crowd called out, We've got Longbottom! We've got Longbottom! Malfoy, Draco! Harry tensed. The pale boy with the sleek blonde hair, the one who'd sneered at Ron on the train, sauntered forward like he already owned the castle. The hat barely whispered before shouting, Slytherin! Draco joined the silver and green table with a satisfied smirk, immediately surrounded by older students clapping him on the back. More names. More houses. Harry's palms were sweating. Please, he thought, though he wasn't sure what he was asking for. Please just... Potter, Harry! The whispers exploded. The Harry Potter? The one who defeated you-know-who? I see the scar. I see it too. Harry's feet moved without his permission. 1 step, 2 steps, 3, carrying him forward through a sea of staring faces. The torchlight flickered across the stone floor. The candles seemed to burn brighter as he passed, their flames leaning toward him like flowers seeking the sun. Focus. Just walk. Just sit down. Just... He sat on the stool. It was colder than he expected. Professor McGonagall lowered the Sorting Hat toward his head. The brim brushed his ears. The fabric smelled of dust and old magic and something else. something that felt like memory, though the memories weren't his. And then, difficult. A whisper breathed inside his skull. Very difficult. Harry froze. Who? I am the Sorting Hat. And you, Harry Potter, are a puzzle. The voice was ancient, layered with centuries of wisdom and judgment. It sifted through Harry's thoughts like fingers through sand, touching memories he tried to bury. The cupboard, Dudley's fists, the cold emptiness of being unwanted. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh yes, buried deep, but there. And a thirst to prove yourself. Harry's heart pounded. But where to put you? Not Slytherin, you fear it too much, though the cunning is there. Ravenclaw values your mind, but your heart burns brighter. Hufflepuff would welcome your loyalty, but you'd grow restless. Not Slytherin, Harry thought desperately. Anything but Slytherin. Not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. And Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. No. The hat seemed to sigh. Very well. If you're certain, better be Gryffindor. But the last word never left the hat's brim. Because the world exploded into fire. Underscore 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 underscore. Not normal fire. Phoenix fire. A screech tore through the great hall, high and wild and ancient, a sound that vibrated in Harry's bones and stopped every heart in the room. Students gasped. Professors shot to their feet. Plates rattled. Goblets toppled. And from the shadows near the staff table, a burst of scarlet and gold erupted toward Harry like a living flame. Fawkes. The phoenix was magnificent, wings spread wide, tail feathers streaming fire that left trails of light across the air. His cry echoed off the stone walls, drowning out the screams and shouts and chaos erupting around them. But Harry barely noticed. Because Fawkes landed on his shoulder. And the fire came with him. Heat washed over Harry, not painful, not burning, but deep. It sank through his robes, through his skin, through his very bones like sunlight flooding a room that had been sealed for years. He gasped, back arching, hands gripping the edges of the stool as flames spiraled around his body. What's happening? Someone screamed. Protect the students. Get back! Fawkes, control your familiar! McGonagall's voice cracked like a whip. But Dumbledore didn't move. Harry saw him through the flames, the headmaster still seated, still watching, his hands still folded before him. But his expression had changed. The twinkle was gone. What remained was something far more terrifying. Recognition. Relief. And was that satisfaction? The flames grew brighter. Hotter. Harry felt something crack inside him. Not bone, not flesh, but something deeper. Something that had been wrapped around his magic like chains, squeezing, suffocating, starving him since the day he was born. The Sorting Hat fell from his head. Harry didn't notice. The fire was in his blood now. It rushed through his veins like a second heartbeat, waking parts of him he never knew existed. Colors brightened. Sounds sharpened. He could feel the magic in the stones beneath his feet, the magic in the candles above his head, the magic in every single person staring at him in horror and wonder. He could feel everything. And then, crack. A sound like breaking ice echoed through the hall. Harry screamed. Not in pain, in release. The fire exploding from his body wasn't burning him. It was burning through him, through layers of invisible restraints so tightly woven they become part of his very soul. He saw them for just a moment. Flickering in the flames like ghostly chains, silver threads wrapped around his chest, his throat, his forehead. Seals. Someone had sealed him. And Fawkes was burning them away. Stop this! Professor Snape's voice cut through the chaos. He'd drawn his wand, robes billowing, heading straight for Harry. Headmaster, order your bird to cease. Wait. Dumbledore's voice was calm. Too calm. Albus the boy. McGonagall pleaded. Wait, Dumbledore repeated. His blue eyes never left Harry. Let it happen. The flames consumed the final seal, the one wrapped around Harry's chest, just over his heart. The second it shattered, a shockwave of raw magic blasted outward, knocking students from their chairs, shattering goblets, sending the floating candles spiraling in wild circles. Harry's head fell back. His scar burned. Not the old pain, the one that came and went like a ghost's whisper. This was new. This was someone's magic recognizing someone else's fire, screaming in outrage as the flames burned through decades of careful work. And somewhere in the back of Harry's mind, a voice hissed. Impossible. The boy is. The flames vanished. Silence crashed down like a wave. Harry sat on the stool, trembling, gasping, his robe singed but his skin untouched. Fawkes still perched on his shoulder, the phoenix's warmth radiating through him like a second soul. The sorting hat lay on the floor at his feet, smoking faintly. Every eye in the great hall was fixed on him. But Harry only saw Dumbledore. The headmaster had finally risen from his chair. His hands were no longer folded. His expression was no longer calm. He looked shaken. And yet his eyes still held that terrible satisfaction. As if this moment, this exact moment, was something he'd been waiting for years. The boy, someone whispered. His magic, can you feel it? Harry could. It roared inside him now, unfamiliar, untamed, terrifying. Chains he hadn't known existed lay shattered at his feet. Seals he hadn't known were. They gaped open like broken cages. He was free. But freedom felt like drowning. What? Harry's voice came out rough, broken. What did you do to me? He wasn't asking the hat. He wasn't asking the professors. He was asking Dumbledore. The headmaster's expression flickered, just for a moment, something complicated and painful crossing his ancient features. Then the mask slid back into place, kind, grandfatherly, safe. Perhaps, Dumbledore said softly. That is a conversation for another time. No. The word left Harry's mouth before he could stop it. The hall gasped. First years didn't tell the headmaster no. But Harry didn't care. The fire was still singing in his blood. The phoenix's warmth was still burning against his shoulder. And deep in his chest, where the last seal had shattered, something new was growing. Something that felt like power. No, Harry repeated louder this time. He stood from the stool, his legs unsteady but his voice steady. You've been watching me all night. You were waiting for this. And you're not going to lie to me about it. Dumbledore's eyes dimmed. Mr. Potter, what did you do to me? The great hall held its breath. And Dumbledore, the greatest wizard alive, the man who had defeated Grindelwald, who had faced Voldemort twice and survived, who had guided the wizarding world for decades, looked away first. We will speak, Dumbledore said quietly, when you are ready to hear the truth. Then speak now. Harry's magic flared. The candles above them flickered. The stones beneath their feet hummed. And for the first time since the flames had died, Fawkes opened his beak and sang. A single, clear note that echoed through the hall like a promise. Or a warning. The sorting was over. But something far more dangerous had just begun. Underscore 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 underscore. McGonagall's voice cut through the chaos, sharp, commanding, desperate to restore order. Gryffindor! Potter is in Gryffindor! Now someone get him to the hospital wing. But Harry wasn't listening. He was staring at Dumbledore. And Dumbledore was staring back. This isn't over, Harry thought. No, the headmaster's eyes seemed to answer. It's only just beginning. The phoenix trilled again, softly this time, almost sadly, and pressed its warm head against Harry's cheek. Harry closed his eyes and felt the weight of a destiny he'd never chosen settle onto his shoulders like chains all over again. But these chains? These chains were made of fire, and he wasn't sure if they would save him or burn him alive. Underscore 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 underscore. End of chapter 1. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag chapter 2. The Phoenix interferes. The hospital wing smelled of lavender and something sharper. Something that reminded Harry of the potion Mrs. Weasley had forced down his throat after he'd accidentally singed his eyebrows off with a misfired spell at the Burrow. Not that he'd been to the Burrow yet. Not that he'd ever met Mrs. Weasley. The memory flickered through his exhausted mind. A future that hadn't happened, a life he hadn't lived. The flames hadn't just broken seals, they'd cracked something else. Something that made past and present blur together like watercolors in rain. You're imagining things, he told himself. Asterisk, the fire scrambled your brain. That's all, asterisk. But the ache behind his scar said otherwise. Drink this. Madame Pomfrey, a stern-faced woman with gray-streaked hair and hands that smelled of herbs, pressed the goblet into Harry's trembling fingers. The liquid inside shimmered silver, like liquid moonlight. What is it? Something to calm your magic before you bring the ceiling down. Harry looked up. Cracks spiderwebbed across the stone ceiling above his bed, fissures that hadn't been there an hour ago. His magic, Pomfrey had explained, was running wild. Uncontrolled. Unanchored. Unsealed. He drank. The silver liquid burned going down, not like fire this time, but like ice. It spread through his chest, numbing the roaring furnace that had awakened during the sorting. The cracks in the ceiling stopped spreading. The goblet stopped vibrating in his hand. But the power didn't disappear. It just waited. Better, Pomfrey muttered, checking his pulse with her wand. Your magical core is stabilizing. Slowly. But it's stabilizing. My what? Your magical core. Every witch and wizard has one. It's the source of your power. Yours, Mr. Potter, appears to have been. She hesitated, glancing toward the door. Suppressed. Harry's grip tightened on the goblet. Suppressed how? That's not my place to say. Madame Pomfrey, the headmaster will speak with you when you're released. Her tone brooked no argument. Until then, you're to rest. No questions. No visitors. No. The hospital wing doors burst open. Ron Weasley tumbled through, red hair wild, face pale. Hermione followed close behind, a book clutched to her chest like a shield. Behind them, Neville Longbottom hovered nervously, looking like he expected someone to hex him at any moment. We had to come, Ron said breathlessly, skidding to a stop beside Harry's bed. Fred and George caused a diversion. Snuck right past. Out! Pomfrey's shriek echoed off the walls. I said no visitors. It's okay. Harry's voice came out hoarse, but he managed a small smile. They're my friends. The word felt strange on his tongue. Friends. He'd never had those before. Pomfrey's expression softened, just slightly. 5 minutes. And if his magic spikes again, you're all leaving through the window. She swept away to the other end of the ward, muttering about reckless students and irresponsible headmasters and phoenixes who should know better than to set children on fire. Ron pulled a rickety wooden chair beside Harry's bed and collapsed into it. Bloody hell, Harry. That was the most mental thing I've ever seen. And I've seen Fred eat an entire live flobberworm on a dare. Hermione settled on Harry's other side, her brown eyes wide with something that looked like awe. The magical signature coming off you during the sorting. I've never read about anything like it. The way the flames responded to your emotional state. The way the castle's wards bent around you. I didn't mean to do any of it, Harry said quietly. That's what's so fascinating. Accidental magic usually manifests in small bursts, floating to safety, regrowing hair, that sort of thing. But the amount of power you released could have powered the Hogwarts wards for a year. Neville edged closer, his round face pinched with worry. Are you okay, Harry? You look different. Harry touched his face. Different how? I dunno. Your eyes, maybe? They're greener. Like they're glowing. Ron squinted at him. Neville's right. There's something weird about your eyes now. Like there's a light behind them. Harry turned toward the small mirror hanging on the wall beside his bed. His reflection stared back, paler than usual, dark circles under his eyes, hair still messier than any comb could tame. But Neville was right about the eyes. They were greener, sharper, and deep in their depths something flickered. Something that looked like embers. The phoenix did something to me, Harry murmured. When it landed on my shoulder, I felt it inside me. Like it was waking me up from a dream I didn't know I was having. The phoenix. Hermione breathed. Fawkes. Dumbledore's familiar. Phoenixes are the most magical creatures in existence. Their tears heal wounds, their flames are purifying, their song can strengthen the pure of heart. But I've never heard of one bonding with a human during sorting. Bonding? Well, yes. He hasn't left your side since the hall. Harry looked down. Fawkes was curled at the foot of his bed, a small pile of scarlet and gold feathers, breathing softly, his head tucked beneath his wing. The phoenix had refused to leave Harry's shoulder during the walk to the hospital wing. Even now, asleep, his warmth radiated across the blankets like a second heartbeat. I don't understand, Harry admitted. Why would Dumbledore's phoenix care about me? Ron and Hermione exchanged a glance. I think, Hermione said carefully, that's what we need to figure out. The 5 minutes stretched into 15. Madame Pomfrey pretended not to notice. Ron produced a pack of exploding snap cards from his pocket. Where he'd hidden them, Harry didn't want to know, and they played 3 rounds while Hermione read aloud from a history of magical seals and restraints, a book she'd somehow checked out of the library between the sorting and now. Listen to this, she said, pushing her bushy hair out of her eyes. Ancient magical seals are typically woven into a wizard's core during infancy, when the magical signature is most malleable. These seals can suppress specific abilities, limit magical output, or even alter emotional responses. Harry's stomach dropped. You think someone put seals on me? I think Fawkes burned something off you during the sorting. And if the headmaster's phoenix was involved... She trailed off, biting her lip. Then Dumbledore probably knew about it. Ron finished grimly. Maybe even put them there himself. Ron! Hermione looked horrified. Dumbledore is the greatest wizard alive. Why would he? I don't know. But you saw his face during the fire. He wasn't surprised. He looked like he'd been waiting for it. Harry closed his eyes. The memory replayed behind his lids. Dumbledore's folded hands, his steady gaze, the terrible satisfaction lurking beneath his grandfatherly mask. Perhaps, the headmaster had said, asterisk. That is a conversation for another time. Asterisk. Not denial. Not outrage. Just patience. Like a chess master watching a pawn move exactly where he'd predicted. Dumbledore knew, Harry whispered. The words tasted like ash. He knew something would happen tonight. He was waiting for it. The hospital wing felt colder suddenly. The candles on the bedside table flickered. What do we do? Ron asked. Harry opened his eyes. The embers deep in his irises flared, just for a moment, and both Ron and Hermione flinched. We find out the truth, Harry said. All of it. Why the seals were there. Who put them there. And what Dumbledore's been planning. How? Harry looked down at Fawkes. The phoenix's head lifted. golden eyes met green ones. And in that gaze, Harry felt something pass between them. Not words, not images, but an understanding. You're not alone anymore. I chose you. And I will help you burn through every lie they've told you. I start, Harry said slowly, by figuring out why a phoenix bonded with me during my sorting. The hospital wing doors opened again at midnight. Harry had been pretending to sleep for hours, listening to Ron's soft snores from the chair beside his bed, Hermione's quiet page-turning from the foot of the ward, Neville's occasional muttered apologies to anyone who accidentally disturbed him. But when the doors creaked, Harry's eyes snapped open. Dumbledore stood in the doorway. Moonlight spilled through the high windows behind him, silvering his beard and casting his shadow long across the stone floor. He held his wand loosely at his side, not raised, not threatening, but present. Ready, Headmaster. Madame Pomfrey's voice came from somewhere in the darkness. It's past visiting hours. I'm aware, Poppy. But Mr. Potter and I have matters to discuss. He's sleeping. Is he? Dumbledore's eyes found Harry's across the darkened ward. Harry didn't look away. I thought not, the headmaster murmured. He walked toward Harry's bed, slowly, deliberately, each footstep echoing in the silence. Pomfrey retreated to her office, muttering, but left the door cracked open. Watching. Listening. Fawkes stirred at the foot of the bed. The phoenix lifted his head and trilled, a soft, mournful sound that made the candles burn brighter. Hello, old friend, Dumbledore said to the bird. You've been busy tonight. Fawkes clicked his beak and turned away. Dumbledore's expression flickered pain, perhaps, or regret. It vanished before Harry could name it. May I sit? Harry didn't answer. Dumbledore sat anyway. The chair creaked beneath his weight. Up close, he looked older than he had in the Great Hall, the lines around his eyes deeper, the skin beneath them darker. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in years. You have questions, Dumbledore said quietly. I have a lot of questions. Naturally. Starting with why you looked happy when Fawkes set me on fire. Dumbledore's lips twitched. Happy is not the word I would choose. Relieved, perhaps. Confirmed. Vindicated in a way I had hoped never to be. That doesn't answer my question. No, the headmaster agreed. It doesn't. The silence stretched between them, thick enough to touch, sharp enough to cut. Why did Fawkes interfere with the sorting? Harry asked. Why did he burn me? What did he burn off me? Dumbledore was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than Harry had ever heard it. When you were a baby, the headmaster said, Voldemort attacked your parents' home. He murdered your father first. Then your mother. And then, he turned his wand on you. Harry's scar throbbed. The killing curse, Dumbledore continued, is unblockable, unsurvivable. And yet you survived. The curse rebounded. Voldemort was reduced to less than a ghost. And you were left with nothing but a scar. I know all of this. You know the story. You don't know the truth. Dumbledore leaned forward. His blue eyes caught the candlelight, no longer twinkling, but blazing with something fierce and ancient and terribly sad. The night you survived, Lily Potter performed magic that hasn't been seen in centuries. She sacrificed herself, not just her life, but her magic. Her very soul offered itself as a shield between you and death. Harry's breath caught. That sacrifice created a bond. A blood protection that would keep you safe as long as you called her sister's house home. But there was a cost. A cost? Dark magic leaves traces, Harry. Voldemort's curse didn't just rebound, it splintered. A piece of it lodged in your scar. A piece of him. Harry's hand flew to his forehead. The seal on your chest. Dumbledore said quietly. The one Fawkes burned away tonight. It was placed there to contain that fragment. To keep it dormant. To protect you from becoming. He stopped. Becoming what? Dumbledore's jaw tightened. A vessel. The word hung in the air like a curse. Harry felt sick. You're saying I had Voldemort's soul inside me? I'm saying you had a fragment of his magic, his rage, his hunger, his connection to certain dark abilities. The seal kept it contained, kept you safe. But it also... The headmaster's voice cracked. It also suppressed your own magic, your own potential, your own self. Why? Because containing a fragment of Voldemort's power requires sacrifice. The seal had to draw from somewhere. It drew from you. Harry's hands were shaking. So my whole life, the Dursleys, the cupboard, the weakness, the feeling like I was half drowned in treacle, that was because of a seal you put on me? I didn't place the seal, Harry. I merely allowed it to remain. Who placed it? Dumbledore was silent. Who? The candles flared. The windows rattled. Somewhere behind them, Madame Pomfrey gasped. A wizard, Dumbledore said finally, who believed he was doing the right thing. A wizard who thought containing your power was the only way to keep you alive. A wizard who... Stop protecting him. Harry's voice was ice. Tell me the name. Dumbledore met his gaze. My name, the headmaster whispered. I wove the seal when you were 15 months old. I held you in my arms. You were so small, so fragile, so broken, and... I chose to bind your magic rather than let Voldemort's fragment consume you. The world tilted. Harry gripped the edge of his bed, knuckles white. You, he breathed. You did this to me. Yes. All those years with the Dursleys, the starvation, the isolation, the feeling like I was nothing, that was because of you. The Dursleys were a separate protection. The blood wards required. I don't care about the blood wards. Harry's magic exploded. The windows shattered. Glass rained across the floor like diamonds. The bed frame buckled. Ron woke with a yell, scrambling backward. Hermione shrieked. Neville dove under his blankets. But Dumbledore didn't move. He sat in his chair as the storm raged around him, wind howling, candles snuffing, power crackling through the air like lightning. His beard whipped sideways. His robes billowed. But his eyes never left Harry's face. You're angry, Dumbledore said calmly. You have every right to be. Angry? Harry laughed, a broken, hollow sound. I don't know how to be anything else. You took everything from me. My magic. My childhood. My choice. I know. You were supposed to protect me. You were supposed to be the good one. The one who... Harry's voice broke. The one who cared. Dumbledore's composure cracked. Just a little. Just enough. I did care, he said, and his voice was raw. I cared so much that I made the most terrible choice of my life. I bound your magic to save your soul. I sent you to the Dursleys to save your life. And every night for 10 years I sat in my office and wondered if I had damned you instead. Did it work? It kept you alive. Did it work? Dumbledore closed his eyes. No, he whispered. No, Harry. It didn't work. The fragment remained. The connection remained. And tonight, when Fawkes burned away the seal, Fawkes acted on his own. The headmaster opened his eyes. Fawkes has been waiting for this moment for 11 years. He sensed what I refused to see, that the seal was doing more harm than good. That containing your power was slowly killing the boy I was trying to save. So the Phoenix knew better than the greatest wizard alive. Phoenixes see truth, Dumbledore said simply, even when wizards choose blindness. Fawkes trilled, softly, sadly, and pressed his head against Harry's trembling hand. Harry looked down at the bird, at the creature who had burned away his chains. At the only being in this room who had acted without lies or manipulation or cruel necessity. Why? Harry asked the Phoenix. Why did you help me? Fawkes lifted his golden eyes. And in them, Harry saw something that made his heart stop. Because you were never meant to be caged. Because the fire was always yours. Because I have been waiting for you for 1,000 years. The candles steadied. The wind died. And Harry, for the first time since the sorting, felt something other than rage. He felt understanding. Thank you, he whispered to the Phoenix. Fawkes dipped his head. Dumbledore rose from his chair. His movements were slow, weighted, aged. There is more you need to know. More I need to tell you. But not tonight. Not when you're exhausted and angry and grieving for a childhood I stole. You don't get to decide when I hear the truth. No, Dumbledore agreed. I don't. Which is why I'm giving you a choice. Harry looked up. Tomorrow, the headmaster said, you can come to my office. I will answer every question you ask. I will tell you about the seals, about the fragment, about the prophecy that started all of this. I will lay my sins before you and accept whatever judgment you choose to give. And if I don't come? Dumbledore smiled, a sad, broken thing. Then you will have made your first free choice. And I will be prouder of you than you will ever know. He turned and walked toward the door. Headmaster. Dumbledore stopped. The prophecy, Harry said. What did it say? The headmaster didn't turn around. His shadow stretched across the floor, long, dark, haunted. It said, Dumbledore whispered, that a child born as the 7th month dies would have the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. It said that the Dark Lord would mark him as his equal. It said that neither could live while the other survives. And me? What did it say about me? Dumbledore finally turned. His eyes were wet. It said you would be trained, tempered, forged into a weapon that could defeat Voldemort. And his voice broke. I chose to be the blacksmith. The door closed behind him. Harry sat in the darkness, the Phoenix warm against his side, the weight of Dumbledore's words pressing down on his chest like stones. Forged into a weapon. The blacksmith. Neither could live while the other survives. Fawkes sang, low and mournful, and somewhere deep in Harry's chest, the embers of his unsealed magic flickered. Not with rage this time. With purpose. He didn't know what Dumbledore had planned. He didn't know what the prophecy meant. He didn't know if the chains Fawkes had burned were the only ones wrapped around his soul. But one thing was certain. Tomorrow, Harry would walk into the headmaster's office. And he would demand the truth. Even if it destroyed them both. End of Chapter 2. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting. Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag Chapter 3. Flames of Truth. Harry didn't sleep. The hospital wing ceiling, still cracked from his earlier outburst, stared down at him like a fractured mirror, each fissure a reminder of the power now coursing through his veins. Moonlight spilled through the broken windows, cold and silver, pooling on the stone floor where shards of glass glittered like scattered stars. Fawkes hadn't moved from his side. The Phoenix's warmth seeped through the thin hospital blankets, radiating into Harry's bones like a slow-burning hearth fire. Every few minutes the bird would lift his head and trill, softly, sleepily, as if checking that Harry was still there, still breathing, still whole. I'm fine, Harry whispered once, running his fingers through the Phoenix's scarlet feathers. Fawkes had fixed him with those ancient golden eyes. No, that gaze seemed to say, asterisk, you're not. But you will be, asterisk. Ron had fallen back asleep an hour ago, his snoring filling the ward with a rhythm almost comforting in its normalcy. Hermione had finally closed her book around 2 in the morning, her head pillowed on Neville's shoulder, the boy having crept closer during the night, too anxious to sleep alone. They were his friends. They'd stayed. Even after the windows shattered. Even after Harry's magic had nearly brought the ceiling down. Even after they'd witnessed something that should have been impossible. They'd stayed. Harry clung to that fact like a drowning man clinging to driftwood. You're not alone anymore. You have people who care. You have a Phoenix who burned through Dumbledore's lies. His scar throbbed, a dull, persistent ache that had nothing to do with Voldemort, and everything to do with the emptiness where the seal used to be. It felt strange, hollow, like a tooth pulled after years of infection. The seal had been part of him for so long, and now it was gone. What else had Dumbledore hidden beneath his skin? Dawn came slowly. First, the darkness softened to gray, the color of old stone, of faded parchment, of memories left too long in the dark. Then pink crept across the horizon, bleeding through the broken windows like spilled wine. Finally, gold. Harry watched the sunrise from his bed. Fawkes watched with him. Neither spoke, but something passed between them anyway. Understanding, perhaps. Or acceptance. Or the quiet recognition that some bonds didn't need words to form. "You stayed with me all night," Harry murmured. The phoenix blinked slowly. "Thank you?" A soft trill. A brush of feathers against his cheek. And then, footsteps in the corridor. Harry tensed. "Madam." Pomfrey emerged from her office yawning, her hair a bird's nest of gray tangles. She stopped when she saw the broken windows, the cracked ceiling, the glass glittering across her pristine floors. "Mr. Potter." "Morning. Did you?" "The windows broke," Harry said flatly. "During the night. Must have been a draft." Pomfrey's eye twitched. She flicked her wand, once, twice, 3 times, and the glass vanished, the windows reformed, the ceiling smoothed itself back into wholeness. Within seconds, the hospital wing looked as it had before Harry's arrival, except for the phoenix at the foot of his bed, and the exhaustion carved into his young face, and the magic crackling beneath his skin like barely contained lightning. "You're being released," Pomfrey said briskly, though her voice was gentler than before. "The headmaster's orders. He wants to see you in his office at 9 o'clock. Harry's heart clenched. The choice. Dumbledore had said it was a choice. Come or don't come, ask or don't ask, know or remain ignorant. But they both knew there was only one answer. "Where's his office?" Harry asked, pushing himself upright. His limbs felt heavy, weighted down by exhaustion and revelation and the terrible anticipation of what was to come. "The 3rd floor. The gargoyle outside will give you the password when you're ready." "What's the password?" Pomfrey smiled, a rare, almost sad expression. "That's the point, Mr. Potter. When you're ready, the gargoyle will know. And it will let you pass." Harry swung his legs over the side of the bed. His bare feet touched the cold stone floor. Fawkes launched himself from the blankets and landed on Harry's shoulder, a familiar weight now, almost comforting. The phoenix's talons gripped his thin hospital gown through the fabric, but didn't break skin. "Does he follow me everywhere now?" Harry asked. "Phoenixes choose their own paths," Pomfrey said. "Even Dumbledore can't command Fawkes. The bird stays where he wishes. And right now, he wishes to stay with me. So it seems." Harry didn't know how to feel about that. Honored, perhaps. Terrified, definitely. Confused, always confused. But somewhere beneath the fear and the confusion, something else flickered. Hope. The castle was quiet at dawn. Harry walked through the empty corridors in his bare feet, still wearing the hospital gown beneath his robes. Someone had brought him a fresh set during the night, though he couldn't remember who. The stone floors were cold against his soles, but he barely noticed. His mind was elsewhere. What am I going to ask him? Everything. Nothing. The right questions and the wrong ones and all the ones in between. What am I going to do if I don't like his answers? Leave. Stay. Scream. Cry. Burn the castle down with magic he didn't understand. What am I going to do about the prophecy? He didn't know. He didn't know anything anymore. Fawkes trilled softly, a guiding sound, and Harry realized he'd stopped walking. He was standing in front of a stone wall, blank and unremarkable, with no door in sight. Except... there. A gargoyle. The stone creature sat on a pedestal near the end of the corridor, its wings folded, its eyes closed. It looked like any other statue in Hogwarts, decorative, ancient, forgotten. But when Harry approached, the gargoyle's eyes opened. "State your purpose," the statue rasped. Harry swallowed. "I'm here to see the headmaster." "Password." "I don't know the password." "Then you cannot pass. Dumbledore told me to come." The gargoyle's stone face twisted, something between a smile and a sneer. "The headmaster tells many people many things. That does not grant them access to his office." Fawkes hopped down from Harry's shoulder and landed on the gargoyle's head. The statue froze. The phoenix leaned down, beak to stone ear, and trilled a single, piercing note that echoed through the corridor like a bell. The gargoyle shuddered. "Password accepted," it whispered, and the wall behind it split open, revealing a spiral staircase that wound upward into darkness. Harry stared. What just happened? Fawkes flew back to his shoulder, looking smug. "You have a password?" Harry asked the bird. The phoenix tilted his head. "No," Harry said slowly. "You don't have a password. You just demanded entry." And the gargoyle listened. Fawkes clicked his beak. "Yes." "Why?" A golden blink. Asterisk, because I am Fawkes. Because I am fire and rebirth and truth. Because stone cannot refuse flame. Asterisk. Harry stepped onto the staircase. It began to move, spiraling upward, carrying him through shadows and torchlight and the lingering scent of old magic. The walls pressed close, then fell away. The air grew warmer, brighter, and then the staircase stopped. Harry stepped into Dumbledore's office. He'd imagined it differently. In his mind, the headmaster's office had been grand, towering shelves filled with ancient books, glittering instruments that measured mysterious forces, portraits of past headmasters watching from gilded frames. The reality was stranger. The room was circular, its stone walls lined with portraits indeed, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, their inhabitants stirring in their frames as Harry entered. Silver instruments sat on spindly tables, puffing smoke and emitting soft chimes. Books lay stacked on every surface, some open, some closed, some bound in leather so old it crumbled at the edges. But what caught Harry's attention was the desk. Dumbledore sat behind it. He hadn't moved when Harry entered, hadn't looked up, hadn't acknowledged the boy's presence at all. His head was bowed over a letter, a quill moving slowly across parchment. His shoulders were hunched. He looked old. Older than he had last night. Older than Harry remembered from the feast, from the train station, from the stories Hagrid had told. "Headmaster." Dumbledore looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, not from lack of sleep, but from something else. Something that looked like grief. "Harry." His voice was hoarse. "You came. You said I had a choice. I said many things last night. Some of them were true. Some of them were." He paused. "Incomplete. Then complete them now." Dumbledore set down his quill. He rose from his chair, slowly, stiffly, and walked around the desk until he stood face to face with Harry. Up close, the headmaster smelled of lemon drops and old parchment, and something else. Something that reminded Harry of the hospital wing. Lavender. And ash. "Before I tell you anything," Dumbledore said, "I need you to understand something. I don't need to understand anything. I need the truth. You need context. Without context, the truth will destroy you." Harry's jaw tightened. "Try me." Dumbledore studied him for a long moment, those blue eyes piercing, searching, measuring. Then he nodded, as if finding something he'd been looking for. "Very well. Sit down, Harry. This will take some time. I'll stand." "As you wish." The headmaster returned to his chair, not behind the desk this time, but in a high-backed armchair near the fire. He gestured to the chair across from him. Harry didn't sit. Fawkes hopped down from his shoulder and settled on the hearth, golden eyes fixed on both of them. "The seals," Dumbledore began, "were not a single spell. They were a network, woven into your magical core over the course of several years. The first was placed when you were 15 months old, as I told you last night. The second was added when you were 3. The third when you were 5. Harry's hands curled into fists. "Why so many?" "Because the fragment of Voldemort's soul evolved as you grew. It learned. It adapted. And the original seal was not sufficient." "Sufficient for what?" "Sufficient to keep you alive." Dumbledore leaned forward, elbows on his knees. The firelight caught the lines on his face, deep grooves carved by decades of difficult choices. When Voldemort attacked your parents, he didn't just cast a killing curse. He performed a ritual, a dark, forbidden ritual designed to anchor his soul to the mortal world. He intended to create a Horcrux that night, a container for the piece of soul he would tear apart. Harry's blood ran cold. A Horcrux? An object containing a fragment of a wizard's soul. As long as the Horcrux remains intact, the wizard cannot truly die. Voldemort created several before his fall. But the night he came to Godric's Hollow, Dumbledore's voice dropped. He intended to create his final Horcrux using your death. Using my. He believed that killing the child of prophecy would be the ultimate act of evil, powerful enough to split his soul one final time. But when your mother sacrificed herself, the curse rebounded. Voldemort's body was destroyed. And a piece of his soul, the piece he'd intended to place in a Horcrux, latched onto the only living thing it could find. Harry's scar burned. You. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. You're saying, Harry whispered, that I'm a Horcrux? You are a container for a fragment of Voldemort's soul. Not a true Horcrux. Those are created intentionally, with specific rituals. What happened to you was an accident. A magical catastrophe. A flaw in Voldemort's plan that he never anticipated. But the soul piece is inside me. Yes. And the seals? Placed to contain it. To suppress its influence. To prevent it from corrupting your mind, your magic, yourself. Harry pressed his hand against his chest, against the place where the final seal had shattered last night. He could feel something stirring there now. Something dark. Something hungry. And the boy belongs to me. Harry staggered back a step. What's happening to me? The fragment is waking. Dumbledore said quietly. With the seals destroyed, it can finally reach you. Speak to you. Influence you. And you just let that happen? You let Fawkes burn. Away the only thing keeping that monster out of my head. Dumbledore's composure cracked. I didn't let Fawkes do anything. The Phoenix acted on his own, against my wishes, against my plans, against everything I've spent 11 years building. I woke this morning to find my familiar bonded to a child, my seals destroyed, and my carefully constructed future crumbling around my ears. Then why aren't you angry? Dumbledore's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Because, he said finally, Fawkes is never wrong. The fire crackled between them. I spent 11 years containing your power. The headmaster continued. 11 years suppressing your magic. 11 years treating you like a bomb that might detonate at any moment. And all that time, Fawkes watched. And waited. And knew that I was making a terrible mistake. What mistake? Thinking I could control the uncontrollable. Thinking I could cage fire without being burned. Thinking that your power was something to be feared rather than nurtured. Harry's throat tightened. My power? The seals didn't just contain the soul fragment, Harry. They contained you. Your magic, yes, but also your potential. Your instincts. Your ability to feel and love and rage and hope. The Dursleys didn't make you feel like nothing. The seals did. The suppression did. The constant, grinding pressure of being less than you were meant to be. Tears burned behind Harry's eyes. He refused to let them fall. So now what? The seals are gone. The fragment is waking. And I'm standing here with a dead Dark Lord's soul inside my head and a phoenix on my hearth and no idea what I'm supposed to do next. Dumbledore rose from his chair. He walked toward Harry, slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. You learn, the headmaster said. You grow. You become what you were always meant to be before I interfered. Which is what? Dumbledore stopped an arm's length away. His blue eyes, no longer twinkling, no longer calculating, met Harry's green ones with an honesty that hurt to witness. I don't know, he whispered. For the first time in 45 years. I don't know. The fire popped. A portrait on the wall, an old wizard with a long silver beard, cleared his throat. Headmaster, the boy is trembling. I can see that, Phineas. Should I fetch a healer? No. Harry was trembling. His whole body shook, not from cold, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of everything Dumbledore had just dumped on his shoulders. A soul fragment. A waking darkness. A future with no map. What do I tell my friends? Harry asked. The truth. As much of it as you're comfortable sharing. They'll be scared of me. Perhaps. Or perhaps they'll surprise you. Ron hadn't run when the windows shattered. Hermione hadn't fled when the ceiling cracked. Neville had stayed even when his own teeth were chattering with terror. They stayed, Harry murmured. Last night. In the hospital wing. They stayed. Loyalty is not given lightly, Harry. It is earned. And you, despite everything, seem to have earned theirs. Fawkes trilled from the hearth, a bright, clear sound that cut through the heavy air like sunlight through clouds. Dumbledore smiled. A real smile this time, small and sad and hopeful all at once. He agrees with me. Of course he does. He's your bird. He's not my bird. Not anymore. The headmaster's voice was soft. He's yours. Harry looked at the phoenix. Fawkes looked back. I chose you, those golden eyes said. Asterisk, not him. Not the castle. Not the prophecy. You, asterisk. Why? Harry asked for the 100th time. Fawkes spread his wings, scarlet and gold, shimmering in the firelight, and sang. The note pierced through Harry's chest like an arrow. But it didn't hurt. It healed. He felt the soul fragment recoil, felt the darkness shrink back from the phoenix's song like a spider fleeing fire. For one perfect moment, Harry's mind was his own. Clear. Bright. Free. Then the note faded. The darkness crept back. But it was smaller now. Weaker. Afraid. The phoenix's song strengthens the pure of heart, Dumbledore said quietly, and weakens those touched by darkness. Fawkes is not just your protector, Harry. He is your weapon, your shield, your connection to a magic that even Voldemort cannot touch. Harry reached out, tentatively, hesitantly, and stroked Fawkes' feathers. The phoenix leaned into his touch. I don't know how to do this, Harry admitted. I don't know how to be a hero. I don't know how to fight a Dark Lord. I don't even know how to pass my first-year exams. Then you will learn. From who? You. Dumbledore flinched. If you'll still have me, he said quietly. After everything I've done. After everything I've taken from you. Harry considered the question. It would be easy to say no. To walk away. To find another mentor, McGonagall, perhaps, or Flitwick, or even Hagrid. Anyone but the man who had sealed his power, suppressed his magic, and watched him suffer for 11 years. But easy wasn't right. And right wasn't easy. I don't forgive you, Harry said finally. I don't think I ever will. But I need you. And you owe me. So yes, I'll learn from you. But not because I trust you. Because I refuse to let Voldemort win because of pride. Dumbledore bowed his head. That's more than I deserve. Yes, Harry agreed. It is. The clock on Dumbledore's desk chimed 9. Somewhere below, the castle was waking, students shuffling to breakfast, professors preparing for classes, the great machine of Hogwarts grinding into motion. But here, in the headmaster's office, time felt suspended. Harry stood by the fire, Fawkes on his shoulder, the weight of prophecy pressing against his chest like a second heart. Dumbledore sat in his chair, head bowed, fingers steepled. The fragment, Harry said. Can it be removed? Dumbledore looked up. I don't know. You're the greatest wizard alive. Surely nothing, Harry. Horcrux. Magic is the darkest, most forbidden branch of sorcery. The mere act of creating one requires murder. The act of destroying one requires something equally terrible. What? Power that you do not yet possess. And may never possess. Harry's jaw tightened. Then I'll find it. Perhaps. Or perhaps. Dumbledore stopped. Perhaps what? Perhaps Fawkes has a different solution. They both looked at the Phoenix. Fawkes blinked, slowly, deliberately, and something passed between him and Dumbledore. Something ancient. Something unspoken. Fire, the headmaster murmured. Phoenix fire is purifying. It burned away the seals. Perhaps, in time, it could burn away the fragment as well. Would that kill me? I don't know. Would it hurt? Almost certainly. Harry looked down at his hands. They were small, still a child's hands. Soft. Uncalloused. Untrained. But beneath the skin, power thrummed. Power that had been sealed for 11 years. Power that was waking slowly, hungrily, impatiently. Power that might, if he was brave enough, strong enough, foolish enough, save him. Or destroy him. Do it, Harry whispered. Dumbledore's eyes widened. Not now. Not until we understand. Then when? When you're ready. And how will I know I'm ready? The headmaster was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real smile, full of warmth and sadness and something that looked like hope. You'll know, he said, when the fire doesn't scare you anymore. Harry looked at the flames in the hearth. They crackled and danced, casting shadows across the stone floor. Fire, purification, death and rebirth. He reached out his hand, palm up, fingers spread, and let the heat wash over his skin. It didn't burn. It welcomed. I'm not scared now, Harry said. Dumbledore's breath caught. Then perhaps, the headmaster whispered, you're closer to ready than either of us realized. Fawkes sang again, louder this time, brighter, and somewhere deep in Harry's chest. The embers of his unsealed magic flared. Not with rage. Not with fear. With certainty. The seals were gone. The fragment was waking. And Harry Potter, 11 years old, exhausted, terrified, and more determined than he'd ever been in his life, was finally, truly free. End of Chapter 3. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag Chapter 4. The breaking of chains. The walls of Hogwarts hummed. Harry noticed it the moment he stepped out of Dumbledore's office. A low vibration beneath his bare feet. A thrumming in the ancient stones that hadn't been there before. Or perhaps it had always been there, and the seals had simply made him deaf to it. Magic, he thought. The castle is alive with magic. And for the first time, he could feel it. Fawkes rode on his shoulder as the spiral staircase descended, the phoenix's warmth a constant counterpoint to the cold stone beneath Harry's soles. The gargoyle at the bottom watched them pass with stone eyes that seemed to follow every movement. The password, Harry murmured. Was it really my need to know the truth? The gargoyle didn't answer. Fawkes trilled softly. Yes. Harry nodded, as if that made sense. Nothing made sense anymore. Not the magic humming through his veins, not the phoenix bonded to his soul, not the fragment of a dark lord sleeping in his scar. But the castle hummed. And Harry listened. The Gryffindor common room was chaos when Harry finally found it. Ron spotted him first, launching himself out of a squashy armchair near the fire, red hair wild, face pale with worry. Harry! Where have you been? We woke up and you were gone and Pomfrey said you'd been released but no one knew where and Hermione's been reading every book in the library trying to find. I'm fine. Harry held up a hand, stopping the flood of words. I was with Dumbledore. All morning? Hermione appeared from behind a bookshelf, a thick tome tucked under her arm. Her brown eyes were sharp, scanning Harry's face, his posture, the phoenix on his shoulder. What did he tell you? Harry looked around the common room. Other Gryffindors were watching, older students pretending not to stare, younger ones whispering behind their hands. A group of fourth-year girls near the window kept glancing his way, their whispers carrying across the room. Asterisk. That's him? Asterisk. Asterisk. The one the phoenix attacked? Asterisk. I heard he burst into flames. My cousin said his magic shattered the ceiling. Dumbledore had to contain him. The whispers crawled across Harry's skin like insects. Not here, he said quietly. Somewhere private. Ron nodded instantly. The dormitory. Everyone's at breakfast. We'll have the room to ourselves. They climbed the spiral staircase to the first-year boys' dormitory. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Fawkes. Neville was already there, sitting on his four-poster bed, fidgeting with a remembrall. He looked up when they entered, round face flushing with relief. You're okay. I'm okay, Harry confirmed. Really okay? Because after last night. I'm not okay, Harry amended. But I'm alive. And I'm not going to explode or catch fire or anything. Probably, Ron muttered. Harry shot him a look. What? You set a phoenix on fire during sorting. Probably seems reasonable. Hermione shushed them both and sat on the edge of Harry's bed, the one with the scarlet curtains, the one Harry hadn't slept in yet. She patted the mattress beside her. Sit. Tell us everything. Harry sat. Fawkes hopped down from his shoulder and settled on the headboard, golden eyes watching the four children with ancient patience. Dumbledore told me, Harry began, that there were seals on my magic. Spells woven into my core when I was a baby. They were supposed to protect me, contain a fragment of Voldemort's soul that got lodged in my scar when he attacked. Ron went white. A fragment of you-know-whose soul? In my scar. Yes. Hermione's hand flew to her mouth. That's Harry, that's impossible. Horcruxes are the darkest magic. There's almost no literature on them. The creation alone requires. I'm not a Horcrux. Not exactly. Dumbledore said it was an accident. A flaw in Voldemort's plan. But there's a piece of him inside me. And the seals were keeping it contained. But Fawkes burned the seals away, Neville said slowly. So now the fragment is waking. Silence. Ron's face cycled through several emotions. Fear, confusion, anger, and finally something that looked like stubborn determination. So we put the seals back. We can't. Why not? Because the seals were also suppressing my own magic. My own potential. Dumbledore said keeping them in place was slowly killing me, not physically, but spiritually. Making me less than I was supposed to be. Hermione's eyes glistened. The Dursleys. The cupboard. The way you flinched whenever anyone raised their voice. Wasn't just them. Harry finished. The seals made me weak. Made me small. Made me feel like nothing because I was nothing. And now, he held up his hand. Concentrated. For 11 years, magic had been a distant thing. A force he could sometimes touch, sometimes feel, but never control. It came in bursts, vanishing glass at the zoo, regrowing hair overnight, operating onto a school roof. But now he could feel it waiting. He pulled. Fire erupted from his palm, not wild and uncontrolled like last night, but focused. Contained. A sphere of golden flame that hovered an inch above his skin, casting flickering shadows across the dormitory walls. Ron scrambled backward. Bloody hell! Harry! Hermione grabbed his arm. Your hand, is it burning? It's not burning. Harry's voice was wonderstruck. It's mine! The flame pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Warm. Welcoming. Alive. This is what magic feels like, he realized. This is what I was supposed to feel all along. Fawkes trilled approvingly from the headboard. Harry closed his fist. The flame vanished. I've never been able to do that before, he whispered. Never. Not once. I could never hold magic. It just exploded out of me when I was scared or angry. But now you can control it. Hermione breathed. The seals weren't just suppressing your power. They were suppressing your access to your power. Like putting a dam on a river, Neville offered. The water's still there, but you can't use it for anything. Then someone breaks the dam, and suddenly you're drowning, Harry finished. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Ron crept closer, eyeing Harry's hand warily. Does it hurt? Sometimes. When I try to hold too much. It's like a muscle I've never used. Weak. Shaky. But getting stronger. How strong do you think you'll get? Harry thought about Dumbledore's words in the office. Your power, your potential, your ability to feel and love and rage and hope. I don't know, he admitted. But I think that's the point. No one knows. Not even Dumbledore. Especially not Dumbledore. Ron muttered darkly. Hermione frowned. What do you mean by that? I mean the headmaster put seals on Harry when he was a baby. Kept him weak for 11 years. And now his phoenix burns those seals away during sorting, and Dumbledore just throws up his hands and says, I don't know. That's convenient. He didn't throw up his hands. He didn't stop the phoenix either. McGonagall was screaming at him to intervene, and he just sat there. Watched. Let it happen. Harry's stomach turned. He hadn't known that, hadn't seen McGonagall's reaction, the professor's panic, Dumbledore's calm in the face of chaos. But Ron had been in the hall. Ron had watched. The headmaster wanted this to happen. Ron continued, his voice rising. I don't know why, I don't know how, but he wanted Fawkes to burn those seals away. Maybe not tonight, maybe not like this, but he was ready for it. Prepared. Ron. Think, Harry. He's the greatest wizard alive. His familiar is a phoenix. You really think Fawkes acts without Dumbledore's knowledge? Without his permission? Harry opened his mouth and closed it. Because Ron was right. Phoenixes were loyal, bound to their masters in ways that went beyond magic, ways that touched the soul itself. Fawkes might have acted independently tonight, but Dumbledore had known. Dumbledore had let it happen. Fawkes has been waiting for this moment for 11 years. The headmaster had said, not acting against Dumbledore's wishes, acting in accordance with a plan laid long ago. The headmaster is playing a game, Harry said slowly, and I'm not sure I know the rules. The morning passed in fragments. Hermione vanished to the library, researching soul magic, Horcruxes, Phoenix bonds, anything that might explain what was happening to Harry. Ron stayed in the dormitory, playing Exploding Snap with Neville while Harry sat on his bed, practicing. Holding fire. Releasing it. Holding it again. Fawkes watched from the headboard, trilling encouragement whenever Harry succeeded, clicking his beak in disapproval whenever Harry's concentration slipped and the flames guttered out. This is impossible. Harry muttered after his 1000th failure. I held it for 3 seconds that time. 3. Last night I shattered half the hospital wing. Last night you were terrified and angry. Ron pointed out. Now you're just frustrated. Maybe your magic responds to strong emotions. So I need to be angry to use it? Or scared? Or happy? Or, I don't know, maybe you need to stop trying so hard and just let it happen. Harry stared at him. What? Fred says that about Quidditch all the time. You're gripping the broom too tight, Ronnie. Loosen up. Let the magic work. Quidditch doesn't involve magic. Everything at Hogwarts involves magic, Harry. Even the brooms. Harry considered this. Then he closed his eyes, took a breath, and stopped trying. The fire came easily this time, not a desperate grab, but a gentle pull. It rose from his palm like water from a spring, warm and steady and completely under his control. Let the magic work. He opened his eyes. A perfect sphere of golden flame hovered above his hand, larger than before, brighter, steadier. It didn't flicker or pulse. It simply burned. Holy cricket, Neville whispered. Ron grinned. Told you. Harry held the flame for 10 seconds. 20. 30. Then he closed his fist and let it fade. I'm going to need a lot of practice, he said. But I think I can do this. Fawkes trilled, loud and proud, and launched himself from the headboard to circle the room in a burst of scarlet feathers. Ron laughed. Even the bird's impressed. The bird has a name, Harry said. And he's not just a bird. He's yours. The word echoed in Harry's mind, not spoken aloud, but felt. A connection between them that went beyond sound or sight. You're mine, Harry thought back. And I'm yours. Fawkes landed on his shoulder and pressed their cheeks together. Always. Lunchtime brought chaos. Word had spread through the castle, not just that Harry Potter had been sorted into Gryffindor, but that something strange had happened during his sorting. Something with fire. Something with a phoenix. Something that had made the ceiling crack and the windows shatter and Dumbledore rise from his chair with an expression no one had ever seen before. By the time Harry reached the Great Hall, every eye was on him. Not just the whispers this time. Not just the stares. Fear. He could smell it, could feel it radiating off the other students like heat off a fire. They were scared of him. Scared of what he'd done. Scared of what he might do next. Ignore them, Ron muttered, steering Harry toward the Gryffindor table. They're just idiots who don't know better. They know enough to be afraid. They know rumors. There's a difference. But Harry wasn't. Sure there was. He sat down heavily, Fawkes still on his shoulder, and reached for a plate of sandwiches. His hands were shaking, not from cold, but from the weight of all those eyes pressing against his skin. You're Harry Potter, he told himself. Asterisk, you've faced Voldemort. You've survived a killing curse. You can handle a few scared students. Asterisk. But he'd faced Voldemort as a baby who didn't understand death, didn't understand fear, didn't understand anything except his mother's screams. Now he understood everything. And it was terrifying. Harry. He looked up. Hermione had appeared beside him, a stack of books in her arms and a grim expression on her face. I found something, she said quietly. In the restricted section. Harry's appetite vanished. What kind of something? Not here. After lunch. Somewhere private. She sat down across from him and began piling food onto her plate, but her hands were shaking too. Whatever she'd found, it was bad. The afternoon brought rain. Gray clouds rolled in over the lake, and within an hour, the castle windows were streaming with water. The corridors grew dim, lit only by floating torches that flickered in the draft. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville gathered in an abandoned classroom on the third floor, one of the many that Hogwarts seemed to have in abundance. Dust sheets covered the furniture, and cobwebs hung in the corners, but the fireplace was still connected to the flue network, and a small fire crackled on the hearth. Fawkes settled on the mantelpiece, wings folded, golden eyes watchful. Show us, Harry said. Hermione pulled a book from her bag, not the thick tome he'd expected, but a thin journal bound in cracked black leather. The pages were yellowed with age, the handwriting cramped and spiky. What is that? The personal journal of a wizard named Aldrich the Elder, Hermione said. He lived about 300 years ago. Most of his work was destroyed because he specialized in. She swallowed. Soul magic. How did you get this? The restricted section has a hidden compartment behind the books on Inferi. I found it this morning while you were with Dumbledore. Ron's eyes widened. You broke into the restricted section? On your first day? I needed answers. And you got them? Hermione opened the journal to a marked page and handed it to Harry. The handwriting was difficult to read, Old English, full of flourishes and abbreviations. But Harry sounded out the words slowly, the firelight dancing across the yellowed parchment. Asterisk. The soul fragment, once lodged in a living vessel, cannot be removed by common magic. It feeds on the vessel's emotions, fear, rage, despair, growing stronger with each dark feeling. To destroy the fragment without destroying the vessel requires a power so rare that only 3 wizards in history have possessed it. Asterisk. Harry looked up. 3 wizards? I checked, Hermione said. The first was Merlin. The second was the original founder of the Department of Mysteries. The third, she hesitated. The third was never named. The journal just calls him the Forgotten One. What's the power called? Soulfire. It's not like normal fire. It burns on the spiritual plane, not the physical one. Phoenix fire is the closest mortal magic can get, but even Phoenix fire can't destroy a soul fragment without. She trailed off. Without what? Without destroying the vessel too. The room went cold. Harry stared at the journal. At Hermione. At Fawkes on the mantelpiece. The Phoenix looked back, calm, steady, unafraid. I told you, those golden eyes seemed to say. Asterisk, the fire is yours. Always has been. Always will be. Asterisk. The seals, Harry said slowly. Fawkes burned them away with his fire. Purified them. Destroyed them without hurting me. Yes. And the soul fragment? He could burn that too. According to Aldrich, Phoenix fire can weaken a soul fragment. Suppress it. Drive it deeper into dormancy. Hermione's voice cracked. But to destroy it completely, the Phoenix would have to burn through you. Through your entire being. And there's no guarantee that I'd survive. No. Ron slammed his fist on the desk. There has to be another way. We'll find it. We'll search every book in the library, every restricted section, We'll try, Hermione said softly. But Aldrich spent his entire life studying soul fragments. If he couldn't find another solution, then we make one. Harry looked at Ron, really looked at him. At the stubborn set of his jaw, the fierce light in his blue eyes, the absolute refusal to accept that his friend might be doomed. You just met me, Harry said. 2 days ago. On the train. Why do you care so much? Ron's expression softened. Because you're my friend, he said simply. And friends don't let friends die. Neville nodded shakily from the corner. What he said? Hermione reached across the desk and took Harry's hand. We're not giving up on you. Ever. Do you understand? Harry's throat tightened. Friends. He never had them before. And now that he did, he wasn't sure he deserved them. The fragment is waking, he said. I can feel it, moving in my scar, whispering at the edges of my mind. It's hungry, Hermione. And it's getting stronger. Then we fight it. How? I don't know how to use my magic. I don't know how to control the fire. I don't even know how to pass my first charms exam. Then you learn. From who? Dumbledore? If you have to. I don't trust him. Then trust us. Harry looked at his three friends, Ron with his fierce loyalty, Hermione with her sharp mind, Neville with his quiet courage. They were children, all of them. 11 years old. Barely old enough to be at Hogwarts at all. And yet they were willing to stand beside him against a fragment of the darkest wizard in history. Why? Because you're their friend. Because you're worth fighting for. Because even with a monster sleeping in your scar, you're still Harry. Fawkes trilled softly from the mantelpiece. And Harry, for the first time since the sorting, felt something other than fear. He felt gratitude. Okay, he said. We fight. Together. Ron grinned. Hermione squeezed his hand. Neville nodded firmly. And somewhere deep in Harry's chest, the embers of his unsealed magic flared, not with rage, not with fear, but with something new. Hope. The fragment stirred in his scar. Hissed. Retreated. For now. End of chapter 4. What if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Chapter 5. Dumbledore's reaction. The headmaster's office was empty when Harry returned that evening. Fawkes had flown ahead, scouting, perhaps, or simply preferring the warm drafts near the ceiling to the cold stone corridors. Harry climbed the spiral staircase alone, his footsteps echoing in the narrow space, the gargoyle's stone eyes following him until the wall sealed shut behind him. The office looked different in the evening light. Shadows pooled in the corners, long and deep, swallowing the silver instruments that had chimed so merrily that morning. The portraits on the walls were mostly empty, their inhabitants off visiting other frames, gossiping about the boy who had burst into flames during sorting. Only one portrait remained occupied. An old wizard with a long silver beard and tired blue eyes sat in a frame directly behind Dumbledore's desk. He watched Harry with an expression that hovered somewhere between curiosity and pity. "You're the boy," the wizard said. "I'm Harry. I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are." The wizard leaned forward, his painted robes rustling. "The question is, do you?" Before Harry could answer, the door behind him opened. Dumbledore entered. He looked terrible, worse than he had that morning. His robes were rumpled, his beard tangled, his half-moon spectacles perched crookedly on his nose. Dark circles hung beneath his eyes like bruises, and his hands trembled slightly as he closed the door. "Headmaster," the portrait's voice was soft. "You should rest." "I should do many things, Phineas. Rest is not among them. The boy can wait." "The boy," Dumbledore said, "has waited 11 years. I think he's waited long enough." He walked to his desk, slowly, heavily, and collapsed into the chair behind it. For a moment, he simply sat there, head bowed, breathing shallow. Then he looked up. Harry hadn't moved from the center of the room. "You came back," Dumbledore said. "You said you'd answer my questions." "I did." "Then start answering." The headmaster's lips twitched, not a smile, but something close. "Exhaustion, perhaps? Or respect?" "Very well. What would you like to know?" Harry crossed his arms. "Why did you really put the seals on me?" Dumbledore was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than Harry had ever heard it, soft and raw and stripped of all the twinkling charm that usually accompanied his words. "When Voldemort fell," the headmaster began, "the wizarding world celebrated. They thought the war was over. They thought the darkness had been defeated. They thought—" he paused. "They thought wrong. The fragment. The fragment. Yes. I knew, almost immediately, that something had gone wrong. The curse should have killed you, Harry. Should have reduced you to ash and memory. But instead you survived. And when I held you in my arms that night, I could feel him inside you. Stirring. Waiting." Harry's scar throbbed. "I consulted every expert I could find. Healers, curse breakers, even the unspeakables at the Department of Mysteries. They all told me the same thing. The fragment was embedded too deeply to remove. Any attempt would kill you. So you decided to contain it instead. I decided to give you a chance. A chance to grow up. A chance to live. A chance to be a child before the darkness consumed you. The seals didn't just contain the fragment. They suppressed my magic. My potential. My entire self." Dumbledore's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. "I know. You made me weak. I made you safe." "Safe?" Harry's voice cracked. "I lived in a cupboard. I was starved. I was beaten. The Dursleys hated me, and I had no magic to defend myself, no power to fight back, no hope that anything would ever get better. And you call that safe? I call it alive. At what cost?" Dumbledore's composure finally broke. "At the cost of everything," he whispered. "Your childhood. Your magic. Your trust. Your love. You want to know the cost, Harry? I paid it too. Every night, for 11 years, I sat in this chair and wondered if I'd made the right choice. Every time Hagrid brought me news of your suffering, I had to force myself not to fly to Surrey and drag you out of that house myself. Every time I looked at Fawkes, I saw his disappointment, his judgment. Then why didn't you come? Because the Blood Wards required. The Blood Wards required nothing." Harry's magic exploded outward, not in fire this time, but in pressure. The air in the room grew thick, heavy, hard to breathe. Books slid from shelves. Quills rolled off the desk. The portraits on the walls rattled in their frames. The Blood Wards, Harry continued, his voice low and dangerous, required that I called the Dursleys' house home. That's it. That's all. I could have lived somewhere else, anywhere else, and still been protected as long as I believed I belonged with them. But I didn't. I never did. I called that house my home because you told me to, not because I meant it. Dumbledore went very still. You knew, Harry said. You knew the wards would work even if I hated every moment. You knew I didn't have to suffer. You knew I could have been placed with a wizarding family, the Weasleys, the Longbottoms, anyone, and still been safe as long as I thought I was going back to the Dursleys for the summer. You chose to leave me there. You chose to let them hurt me. You chose suffering over comfort because you thought suffering would make me stronger. No. Then why? Dumbledore rose from his chair. His hands were shaking now, not from age, but from something deeper. Something that looked like grief. Because I was afraid, he said. Harry blinked. What? I was afraid, Harry. Afraid that if you grew up loved, if you grew up happy, if you grew up whole, you wouldn't be able to do what needs to be done. And what needs to be done? Dumbledore met his eyes. Defeat Voldemort. Permanently. Not just drive him back, not just break his body, but destroy him so completely that he can never, ever return. The room was silent. Even the portraits had stopped breathing. You wanted me to be miserable, Harry said slowly, so I would be desperate enough to fight. I wanted you to be tempered, forged, shaped into a weapon that could face the Dark Lord without flinching. You wanted me to be a soldier. I wanted you to be a savior. I'm 11 years old. I know. Dumbledore's voice broke on the last word, shattered like glass, like ice, like the carefully constructed mask he'd worn for decades. Tears spilled down his cheeks, dripping into his silver beard, and he didn't wipe them away. I know how old you are. I know what I've done to you. I know that when you look at me, you see a monster, and perhaps you're right. Perhaps that's all I am now. A monster who sacrificed a child's happiness for the greater good. The greater good. Harry repeated. That's what Grindelwald said. Dumbledore flinched as if he'd been struck. Yes, he whispered. Yes, he did. The name hung in the air between them, heavy with history, with tragedy, with choices made and paths taken and the thin, terrible line between heroism and villainy. Grindelwald was your friend, Harry said, before he became the Dark Lord, before you defeated him. He was your friend, and you both believed in the greater good. Until I saw what the greater good truly meant. But you didn't stop believing it. You just redefined it. Dumbledore said nothing. The greater good, Harry continued, is whatever you decide it is. Whatever sacrifice you decide is necessary. Whatever child you decide to break. The prophecy. I don't care about the prophecy. You should. Because the prophecy is the only reason you're still alive. Harry stopped. Dumbledore walked around the desk until he stood face to face with the boy, close enough to touch, close enough to see the tears still wet on his cheeks. The prophecy, the headmaster said, states that neither can live while the other survives. It doesn't say you have to kill him. It doesn't say you have to fight him. It says that as long as both of you draw breath, either of you can truly live. What's the difference? Living is breathing, eating, sleeping, going through the motions of existence. Living, truly living, requires something else. It requires hope, love, a future that isn't defined by darkness. Harry's throat tightened. And I can't have that while Voldemort exists. Neither can anyone else. But you carry him inside you. His fragment is part of your soul now, woven into your very being. As long as he survives, that fragment will call to him. And as long as that fragment exists, you will never be free. Then destroy it. I can't. Then help me destroy it. Dumbledore's eyes searched Harry's face, looking for something, though Harry didn't know what. You would let me help you? The headmaster asked. After everything I've done? I don't trust you. I don't forgive you. I don't even like you. But you're the most powerful wizard alive, and I'm an 11-year-old who can barely hold fire in his palm. I need your knowledge. Your resources? Your experience. And my guilt? Harry met his gaze. Your guilt is your own problem, he said flatly. I'm not here to make you feel better about what you did to me. I'm here to survive. Dumbledore was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, painfully, he nodded. Survival, he said. That, at least, I can promise you. Can you? I can try. Try isn't good enough. It's all I have. Harry looked at the old man, at the tears still drying on his cheeks, at the trembling hands, at the eyes that had seen too much and lost too much and made too many terrible choices. He didn't feel pity. He didn't feel forgiveness. He didn't even feel understanding. But he felt something. Something that might, in time, become the foundation for something else. Tell me about the fragment, Harry said. Everything. Not the lies. Not the half-truths. Everything. Dumbledore returned to his chair. When Voldemort attacked your parents, he began. He intended to create his final Horcrux. He believed that killing the child of prophecy would be the ultimate act of evil, powerful enough to tear his soul one final time. But your mother's sacrifice interrupted the ritual. The curse rebounded. Voldemort's body was destroyed, and the piece of soul he'd intended to place in a Horcrux lodged in me instead. Yes. But not in your body, Harry. In your soul. The fragment is attached to your very essence, the part of you that makes you you. That's why the seals had to be woven into your magical core. They were the only thing strong enough to contain something so intimate. How do you destroy a soul fragment? There are several methods. Basilisk venom, fiend fire, certain dark curses that I will not name, but all of them require the vessel to be destroyed as well. So I'd have to die. Your body would have to be destroyed beyond magical repair. Your soul, your true soul, might survive, but without a body. Dumbledore trailed off. I'd be like Voldemort. A ghost. A shadow. Yes. There has to be another way. There is one possibility. But it's dangerous. Untested. And it would require... Dumbledore hesitated. It would require Fawkes. Harry glanced at the hearth. The phoenix sat among the flames, golden eyes watching, feathers glowing softly in the firelight. Phoenix fire, Harry said. Aldrich the Elder wrote about it. Soul fire. The power to burn on the spiritual plane. You've been reading. Hermione found the journal this morning. Dumbledore's expression flickered, surprise, then approval, then something that looked like fear. Miss Granger is remarkably resourceful. She's my friend. Yes. I've noticed. The headmaster paused. Phoenix fire might be able to destroy the fragment without destroying you. But it would require a connection between Phoenix and Wizard that has only existed 3 times in history. The first was Merlin and his Phoenix, Ignis. The second was the Founders and their Phoenix, Aurelius. The third was never named. Because the third failed. Harry's blood went cold. Failed how? The wizard died. His soul was purified. The fragment was destroyed, but his body couldn't withstand the fire. He burned to ash while his phoenix sang. The Forgotten One. Yes. His name was struck from every record. His family disowned him. His friends pretended they'd never known him. The wizarding world decided that some sacrifices were too terrible to remember. And you think that could happen to me? Dumbledore met his eyes. I think Fawkes bonded with you for a reason. I think the seals were destroyed for a reason. I think you survived the killing curse for a reason. But I don't know what that reason is. And until we do, I won't let you attempt something that could kill you. You can't stop me. I can try. Try isn't good enough. Dumbledore smiled, a sad, broken thing. No, he agreed. It's not. The clock on Dumbledore's desk chimed 9. Somewhere below, the castle was settling into evening, students in the common rooms, professors in their quarters, the great rhythm of Hogwarts continuing despite the chaos of the past 24 hours. But here, in the headmaster's office, time felt suspended. Harry sat in the chair across from Dumbledore, Fawkes warm on his shoulder, the weight of the prophecy pressing against his chest like a second heart. "What do we do now?" Harry asked. "Now," Dumbledore said, "we prepare. You have magic to learn, vast amounts of magic. Magic that was suppressed for 11 years. Magic that will grow faster and stronger than anything Hogwarts has seen in centuries. Who will teach me? I will. Privately. In addition to your regular classes. And my friends?" Dumbledore hesitated. "What about them? They know about the fragment. About the seals. About most of it. They know? Hermione found Aldrich's journal. Ron figured out that you wanted Fawkes to burn the seals away. Neville stayed in the hospital wing even when my magic shattered the ceiling." Harry's voice was steady. "They're not going anywhere. And I'm not hiding things from them." Dumbledore was quiet for a long moment. "You trust them," he said finally. "More than I trust you." "Good." The headmaster nodded slowly. "Good. You'll need people you can trust. People who aren't compromised." "Are you compromised?" Dumbledore's eyes dimmed. "I've spent 45 years planning for a war that hasn't happened yet," he said quietly. 45 years making choices that haunt me. 45 years sacrificing pieces of myself on the altar of the greater good. So yes, Harry, I'm compromised. I'm broken. I'm exactly the wrong person to guide you. And yet you're going to do it anyway. Because there's no one else." Harry looked at the old man, at the exhaustion carved into his face, the grief pooling in his eyes, the weight of decades pressing down on his shoulders. 45 years. The words echoed in Harry's mind. What kind of plan takes 45 years? What kind of man spends nearly half a century preparing for a war? What else hasn't Dumbledore told him? "The seals," Harry said slowly. "You said you added more as I grew? The first at 15 months. The second at 3. The third at 5. Yes. Who wove them?" "I did." "All of them?" Dumbledore's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. "All of them," he confirmed. Harry studied the headmaster's face, searching for lies, for half-truths, for the tells that would reveal deception. But Dumbledore wasn't lying. He was hiding something, something deeper than the seals, darker than the fragment, but he wasn't lying. 45 years, Harry said. "You've been planning something for 45 years. The seals were part of it. The blood wards were part of it. Leaving me with the Dursleys was part of it. What else?" Dumbledore's breath caught. "Harry, what else?" The portraits on the walls were watching now, dozens of painted eyes fixed on the boy and the headmaster, witnessing something that would be whispered about for generations. Dumbledore opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "Not tonight," he whispered. "Please. I've given you so much tonight. So many truths that I swore I'd never tell. Let me keep one secret. Just one. Until I'm ready." "When will you be ready?" "When you are." Harry didn't understand, not fully. But he saw something in Dumbledore's eyes that made him pause. Something that looked like terror. Not terror of Harry. Terror of himself. "Fine," Harry said finally. "Keep your secret. For now. But I'll find out eventually." "I always do." Dumbledore nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "I suspect you will." Fawkes trilled softly, a mournful sound that echoed through the office like a funeral bell. And somewhere deep in Harry's chest, the embers of his unsealed magic flickered. Waiting. Watching. Ready. End of chapter 5. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag chapter 6. A different sorting. The dream came 3 nights later. Harry stood in a corridor he didn't recognize, long and dark, lined with torches that burned with cold blue flames. The walls were damp, sweating stone, and somewhere in the distance, water dripped with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Where am I? He turned in a slow circle, bare feet silent on the wet floor. The corridor stretched in both directions, endless, empty, waiting. And then he heard it. Whispers. Not words, not exactly. More like the shape of words, the echo of language without meaning. They came from everywhere and nowhere, wrapping around him like fog, pressing against his ears until he wanted to scream. Potter! The boy! He carries the Dark Lord's. Harry's scar burned. He pressed his hand to his forehead, felt the raised lines of the cursed scar, the heat radiating from it like a brand. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, more hungry. See him. Feel him. The fragment wakes. The fragment knows. And then, a voice. Not a whisper this time. Not an echo. A presence. So. The seals are broken. Harry's blood turned to ice. The voice was cold, colder than the disease freezer, colder than the dungeons beneath Hogwarts, colder than anything he'd ever felt. It slithered through his mind like a snake, leaving trails of venom in its wake. I wondered when that meddling old fool would finally lose control of his precious phoenix. Who are you? Harry demanded. The voice laughed, a horrible, scraping sound that made his teeth ache. You know who I am, Harry Potter. You have always known. I am the shadow in your scar, the darkness in your blood, the piece of myself that I never meant to leave behind. Voldemort. The name tasted like ash on his tongue. You dare speak my name? The voice sharpened, grew colder. You, a child, a vessel, dare to speak the name of Lord Voldemort? You're not Voldemort. You're just a fragment. A piece of him that couldn't even survive a baby's magic. Silence. The whispers stopped. The cold blue torches flickered. And then, rage. Insolent brat. The corridor shattered. Stone exploded outward. The floor cracked beneath Harry's feet. The walls crumbled like sand, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. Endless, hungry darkness that stretched in all directions. Harry fell. Not down, not toward anything solid, but through. Through shadow and cold and the terrible weight of a presence that wanted to consume him. I will not be spoken to thus by a child. The voice hissed. I am Lord Voldemort. I am the greatest wizard the world has ever known. And you are nothing. A convenience. A container. A means to an end. Then why are you so scared? The falling stopped. Harry hung in the darkness, suspended, weightless, alone. Scared? The voice was quiet now. Dangerous. I am not scared of you. You're scared of Dumbledore. Of Fawkes. Of the seals breaking. Because you know, that I'm not going to be your vessel forever. I'm going to destroy you. Burn you out of my soul like the poison you are. The voice didn't answer. But Harry felt something ripple through the darkness. Something that might have been fear. You cannot destroy me, the voice said finally. I am eternal. I am beyond death. I have split my soul so many times that even the destruction of my body cannot end me. You're also insane. What? You heard me. You split your soul. You made yourself less than human. You're not immortal, Voldemort. You're a ghost. A fragment pretending to be whole. And when I burn you out of my scar, you'll finally have to face what you've become. And what is that? Harry smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Nothing. The darkness screamed. And Harry woke. He sat bolt upright in his four-poster bed, gasping, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. Sweat soaked through his pajamas. His scar throbbed with a rhythm that matched the fading echoes of that terrible voice. Just. A dream, he told himself. Just a dream. But he knew it wasn't. Harry? Ron's voice came from the bed beside his, sleepy, muffled concern. You were shouting, Ron mumbled, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. Something about nothing. And darkness. And are you okay? Harry pressed his hand to his scar. It's getting stronger, he whispered. The fragment. It's waking up. Ron was out of bed in an instant, crossing to Harry's side, his face pale in the moonlight streaming through the dormitory windows. What did it say? Did it hurt you? Should I get Hermione? It said I was a convenience. A container. A means to an end. That's rubbish. Is it? Harry looked up at his friend. Dumbledore's been planning something for 45 years. Voldemort's fragment is inside my head. And I'm supposed to be the one who defeats him. The only one who can defeat him. That's not a person, Ron. That's a tool. Ron sat on the edge of the bed, his expression fierce. You're not a tool. You're Harry. You're the bloke who shared his chocolate frogs on the train even though you'd never had one before. You're the bloke who stood up to Malfoy before we even got to the castle. You're my friend. Even with the Dark Lord's soul in my scar? Especially because of it. Anyone else would have crumbled. Gone mad. Become exactly what the fragment wanted. But you're fighting it. That's not tool behavior, Harry. That's hero behavior. Harry's throat tightened. You really believe that? I really do. They sat in silence for a moment, two boys in a darkened dormitory, the weight of prophecy pressing down around them. Hermione's going to want to research dream magic, Harry said finally. She's going to say the fragment is testing my defenses, looking for weaknesses. She's probably right. She's always right. Ron snorted. Don't tell her that. Her head's big enough already. Harry laughed, a real laugh, rusty and surprised. It felt good. Normal. Like the world hadn't ended. Like the fragment wasn't waking. Like he was just an 11-year-old boy complaining about his first week of classes. Maybe, he thought, I can be both. The hero and the boy. The weapon and the friend. Maybe Dumbledore was wrong. Maybe I don't have to choose. The Sorting Hat's decision had been unexpected. Gryffindor, yes, but with a delay that had everyone whispering. The hat had sat on Harry's head for nearly 5 minutes, an eternity in sorting terms, while the hall watched in breathless silence. What no one knew was what the hat had said before Fawkes interrupted. Not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. And Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. Harry hadn't forgotten those words. And now, lying awake in the Gryffindor dormitory with the fragment's voice still echoing in his skull, he wondered if the hat had been right. Slytherin. The house of ambition. Cunning. Determination. The house that had produced more dark wizards than any other. The house that Voldemort himself had called home. You could be great. What if the hat had seen something in Harry? Something beyond the courage and loyalty and thirst to prove himself? What if it had seen the fragment? The darkness? The potential for something else? Stop it, Harry muttered to himself. But the thought wouldn't leave. The next morning, Harry found Hermione in the library before breakfast. She was already surrounded by books, stacked on the table, piled on the floor, balanced precariously on the arms of her chair. Her hair was wilder than usual, and there were dark circles under her eyes that matched Harry's own. You haven't slept either, Harry said, sliding into the seat across from her. Hermione didn't look up from the book in her hands. Dream magic. It's fascinating and terrifying. There are documented cases of magical fragments influencing their hosts through dreams, creating shared spaces in the subconscious, even. She finally looked up. Even possessing them while they sleep. Possessing them? Taking control of their bodies. Using them as puppets. The fragment doesn't have enough power for that yet, not without the seals to contain it. But if it grows stronger, it could take over. Hermione nodded grimly. Harry stared at the books spread across the table. Ancient tomes with cracked spines, scrolls written in languages he didn't recognize, diagrams of the human mind rendered in faded ink. How do we stop it? We don't. Not yet. According to these texts, the only way to prevent dream influence is to strengthen the host's mental defenses. A clemency, they call it. But a clemency takes years to master. Years, Harry. and the fragment is growing stronger every day. Then we need to slow it down. How? Harry thought about the dream, about the cold blue flames, the crumbling corridor, the moment when he'd called Voldemort nothing and the darkness had screamed. It feeds on fear, he said slowly. On rage. On despair. When I confronted it, when I stopped being afraid, it retreated. Hermione's eyes widened. Aldrich wrote about that. Emotional regulation. The fragment draws power from your darkest feelings. If you can control your emotions, if you can stay calm, stay focused, stay hopeful, then the fragment stays weak. Exactly. Harry felt something loosen in his chest. Not quite hope, but close. So I just have to not be scared. Of anything. Ever. Hermione's excitement faded. That's not possible, Harry. You're human. You're going to feel fear. And anger. And despair. Especially with everything that's happening. Then I need to learn how to feel those things without feeding the fragment. How? Harry thought about Ron's words in the dormitory. Asterisk, you're fighting it. That's not tool behavior, Harry. That's hero behavior, asterisk. By remembering, he said quietly, that I'm not alone. The sorting of Harry Potter became legend within a week. Not because of the hat's decision, though that was debated endlessly in the common rooms, but because of what had happened during the sorting. The phoenix. The flames. The magic that had shattered the ceiling and cracked the walls and made the very stones of Hogwarts sing. Every student had a theory. Some said Harry was a secret Dark Lord in training, that the Phoenix had recognized the darkness in him and tried to burn it out. Others said he was the next Merlin, a wizard of such power that the very fabric of magic bent around him. A few whispered that he wasn't human at all, that the boy who lived had died that night in Godric's Hollow, and something else had taken his place. Harry heard all the rumors. He tried to ignore them. But ignoring was difficult when the students in the corridors parted before him like waves before a ship, when the whispers followed him everywhere, a constant accompaniment to his footsteps. Asterisk. There he is. Asterisk. Asterisk. The Potter boy. Asterisk. Asterisk. Did you see the flames? Asterisk. My cousin said his eyes glow in the dark. I heard he can start fires with his mind. Ron walked beside him, a solid wall of freckled indifference. Ignore them. Easy for you to say. No one's whispering about you. They will be. Once I'd become the youngest Quidditch player in a century. Harry snorted. You've never even been on a broom. I've got natural talent. You've got natural something, but I'm not sure it's talent. Ron grinned, and for a moment, the whispers faded. The stares softened. They were just two boys walking to breakfast, joking about Quidditch being normal. But normal didn't last. It never did. Professor McGonagall stopped Harry after Transfiguration. Mr. Potter. A word. Harry waved Ron and Hermione ahead. They hesitated, but eventually continued toward the Great Hall, and approached the professor's desk. McGonagall's expression was stern as always, but there was something else in her eyes. Something that looked like worry. How are you feeling? She asked. Fine. Don't lie to me, Mr. Potter. I've been teaching for 39 years. I can tell when a student is lying. Harry shifted his weight. I've been better. The headmaster told me about the seals. About the fragment. Her voice softened. I'm sorry, Harry. I didn't know, none of us knew, what he'd done to you. You're not responsible for Dumbledore's choices. No. But I am responsible for my own. And I chose to trust him. To believe that he knew what he was doing. To look the other way when things seemed wrong. She met his eyes. I won't make that mistake again. What do you mean? McGonagall leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Dumbledore has plans, long-term plans, that he hasn't shared with anyone. Not even me. But I've started to notice things. Patterns. Decisions that didn't make sense at the time, but are starting to now. Like what? Like placing you with the Dursleys. Like refusing to let any of the Order adopt you. Like waiting until the last possible moment to tell you about the wizarding world. She paused. Like the Phoenix. Fawkes? Fawkes has been with Dumbledore for decades. Loyal. Obedient. He's never acted against the headmaster's wishes, not once in all the time I've known him. Until you're sorting. You think Dumbledore didn't want Fawkes to interfere? I think Dumbledore has been planning something for a very long time. And I think Fawkes, for reasons I don't fully understand, decided to disrupt those plans. Harry's heart pounded. What kind of plans? McGonagall shook her head. I don't know. But I intend to find out. And I think... She hesitated. I think you should be careful, Mr. Potter. Dumbledore means well. I truly believe that. But meaning well and doing well are two different things. You're warning me about the headmaster. I'm warning you to trust your instincts. You have something that Dumbledore doesn't, a Phoenix bond. Fawkes chose you for a reason. Listen to him. Even when, especially when, he tells you things you don't want to hear. Harry glanced at his shoulder. Fawkes wasn't there. The Phoenix had flown off that morning, chasing something only he could see. But Harry felt him anyway. A warmth in his chest. A presence at the edge of his awareness. Listen to him. I will, Harry said. McGonagall nodded. Good. Now go, you'll miss breakfast, and Mr. Weasley will eat your share if you're not careful. Harry almost smiled. Yes, Professor. He turned to leave, then stopped. Professor? Yes? Why did the Sorting Hat take so long with me? Before Fawkes came. It said I could be great in Slytherin. That I had cunning and ambition. Was it talking about the fragment? McGonagall's expression flickered. The Sorting Hat sees what is inside you, Mr. Potter. Not just what you are, but what you could be. The fragment is part of you now. It always will be. But it is not all of you. The hat also saw your courage. Your loyalty. Your capacity for love. She smiled, a rare, warm expression. That's why it put you in Gryffindor. Not because you asked, but because you deserved it. Harry's throat tightened. Thank you, Professor. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you've passed your OWLS. He left the classroom with her words echoing in his mind. Asterisk, the fragment is part of you. But it is not all of you. Asterisk. You deserved Gryffindor. You deserved... The corridor blurred. Harry stopped walking, pressing his hand against the cold stone wall. His vision swam, not with tears, but with something else. Something that looked like memory. He saw a woman with red hair. She was young, younger than Harry's mother would have been, if she'd lived. Her eyes were green, like his. Her smile was warm, like sunlight. You're so brave, she whispered. Asterisk. My brave, brave boy. Asterisk. And then, a flash of green light. A scream. And Harry was back in the corridor, gasping, his scar burning, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. What was that? Memory, something whispered in the back of his mind. Asterisk, not yours. Hers. The fragment unlocked something when it woke. Something that was always there, buried beneath the seals. Asterisk. The fragment unlocked my mother's memories? Asterisk, some of them. The ones she left behind. The ones Dumbledore tried to suppress. Asterisk. Why? Because the truth would destroy his plans. Harry's blood ran cold. What truth? But the voice didn't answer. And somewhere in the distance, Fawkes screamed. End of chapter 6. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag chapter 7, echoes of the past. The vision started small. A flash of green light in the corner of Harry's eye, gone before he could turn his head. A woman's laugh echoing through empty corridors, silent when he stopped to listen. The smell of something burning, not fire, but something sweeter, sadder, like flowers left too long in the sun. At first, Harry thought he was going mad. Then he realized the truth was worse. The fragment, he thought during charms on Thursday, when Professor Flitwick's demonstration of the wand lighting charm blurred into a memory of candlelight flickering across a baby's crib. It's showing me things. Not Voldemort's memories. Lily's. The woman with red hair, his mother, had left something behind when she died. Not just the blood protection, not just the sacrifice that had saved his life. Something deeper. Something that had been buried beneath Dumbledore's seals for 11 years. And now, with the seals broken, those memories were rising to the surface. Harry. Harry. Ron's hand on his shoulder jolted him back to the present. The charms classroom swam into focus. The floating candles, the rows of desks, Hermione's worried face across the aisle. You were gone, Ron said quietly. Almost a minute. Your eyes went all glassy. I'm fine. You're not fine. I'm fine. Ron flinched at Harry's tone, and immediately looked guilty for flinching. Sorry. You scared me. Harry rubbed his temples. The memory was fading now, slipping back beneath whatever surface it had risen from. But the echo remained, the phantom scent of baby powder, the ghost of a lullaby he'd never heard before. I saw my mother, he whispered. Ron's eyes widened. What? In the vision. I saw her holding me, when I was a baby. There were candles everywhere. And someone was singing. Harry's voice cracked. I think she was happy. Hermione leaned across the aisle, her voice barely audible. The fragment is giving you access to her memories? Not the fragment. Something else. Something the seals were hiding. Dumbledore? I don't know. Professor Flitwick's squeaky voice cut through their whispered conversation. Mr. Potter! Since you seem so eager to discuss matters other than the wand-lighting charm, perhaps you'd care to demonstrate? The class turned to look at him. Harry's cheeks burned. He raised his wand, a habit now, even though he didn't need it for magic anymore. The fire responded to his will, not to the wood and core in his hand. Lumos. Light exploded from his wand, not the soft glow Flitwick had demonstrated, but a blinding radiance that filled the entire classroom. Students shielded their eyes. Books flew off shelves. The candles on the ceiling flickered and died. Harry lowered his wand. The light vanished. Silence. Then Flitwick's voice, astonished, almost reverent. Mr. Potter, that was a Patronus-level illumination. Wandless. Without proper training. How? Seals, Harry said flatly. Broken seals. Uncontrolled power. Pick whichever excuse you prefer. He sat down. No one applauded. No one whispered. They just stared. Hermione cornered him after class. That was reckless, she hissed, dragging him into an empty classroom. Ron followed, closing the door behind them. You can't just blast magic everywhere without thinking. People are already scared of you. You're just proving them right. Maybe they should be scared. Harry. The fragment is waking up, Hermione. It spoke to me in my dream. It called me a container. A means to an end. And now I'm seeing my mother's memories. Memories Dumbledore tried to bury. And I don't know what's real anymore. Then we figure it out. Hermione's voice was fierce. Together. That's what friends do. Friends don't put themselves in danger for no reason. You're not a reason. You're a person. Harry looked at her, at Ron, at the two people who had chosen to stand beside him despite everything. What if I hurt you? He asked quietly. What if the fragment takes over and I? It won't. How do you know? Ron stepped forward. Because I've seen you with that phoenix. Fawkes wouldn't have bonded with a monster. Phoenixes don't make mistakes. The Forgotten One. The Forgotten One died. He didn't become evil. He didn't hurt his friends. He tried to destroy the fragment, and it cost him everything. But he was still a hero, Harry. That's what the journals say. That's why they struck his name from history, not because he failed, but because remembering him would force people to admit that some sacrifices are too terrible to make. Harry stared at his friend. How do you know all that? Ron's ears turned red. I might have asked Hermione to read me some of the Aldrich passages while you were asleep. You've been researching. We've all been researching. Neville's voice came from the doorway. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him, his round face serious. The library, the restricted section, even sent an owl to my gran asking about old books on soul magic. She must have loved that. She sent back a howler. Neville winced at the memory. But she also sent this. He pulled a small leather journal from his robes, ancient, cracked, bound with twine that looked older than Hogwarts itself. Augusta Longbottom's private collection. Neville said. She's been studying the fragment for years. Ever since my parents. Harry's breath caught. Your parents, he said slowly. They were tortured by Death Eaters. Bellatrix Lestrange. The Cruciatus Curse. Neville nodded, his jaw tight. They're in St. Mungo's now. They don't remember me. They don't remember anything. But before they broke, before the torture destroyed their minds, they told my gran about a prophecy. What prophecy? The same one Dumbledore's been hiding. Neville opened the journal, flipping through pages filled with cramped, desperate handwriting. Here. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not. Everyone knows that prophecy, Hermione said. It's why Voldemort attacked Harry's parents. There's more. Neville's voice dropped. The full prophecy, the one Dumbledore never told anyone, says something else. Something about the fragment. Harry's heart pounded. What does it say? Neville read from the journal. And the Dark Lord's soul shall splinter in the killing, a piece lost, a piece found, a piece bound to the child's brow. Neither can live while the other survives, but the child shall carry the serpent's fawn within his breast until the phoenix's fire burns it clean. The room went cold. Harry's scar throbbed. The phoenix's fire, he whispered. That's why Fawkes bonded with me. That's why Dumbledore's seals failed. The prophecy itself demanded it. Hermione's face was pale. But the prophecy also says the fragment will burn clean. Not destroy you, burn clean. That means... It means I might survive. Or it means you won't, Ron said bluntly. Burning clean could mean anything. Burning away the darkness while leaving the vessel intact. Or burning away everything, darkness and vessel, until nothing remains. Thanks. For that, Ron. Someone has to say the unpleasant truths. Harry took the journal from Neville, running his fingers over the faded ink. His grandmother's handwriting, Augusta Longbottom, who had raised Neville after his parents' minds were destroyed, who had trained him in secret, who had been preparing for this war longer than anyone knew. She knew, Harry said, about the fragment, about the prophecy, about everything. She suspected. Neville corrected. She didn't know. No one knew except Dumbledore. And he wasn't sharing. Why not? Because knowledge is power. And Dumbledore doesn't like sharing power. That night, Harry dreamed of his mother again. Not the fragment this time, not the cold darkness and the whispering voice. Something warmer. Something that felt like love. He was in a cottage, small, cozy, with a fireplace crackling in the corner and a cradle by the window. Rain pattered against the glass. Somewhere in another room, a man was singing off-key. James, Harry realized. My father. And there, rocking the cradle, humming a lullaby, was Lily. She looked younger than the photographs Harry had seen. Her red hair fell in waves past her shoulders. Her green eyes, his eyes, were soft with exhaustion and joy. You're so small, she whispered to the baby in the cradle. So impossibly small. How is anyone supposed to protect something so fragile? The baby gurgled. Lily laughed, a sound like bells, like sunlight, like everything Harry had never had. Your father thinks you'll be a Quidditch star. Your father thinks you'll be head boy. Your father thinks you'll be everything he was and more. She stroked the baby's cheek. But I don't care about any of that. I just want you to be happy. The baby, Harry, reached up and grabbed her finger. I love you, Lily whispered. More than anything. More than magic. More than life itself. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Whatever it takes. The dream shifted. The cottage darkened. Rain turned to thunder. Lightning flashed through the windows, illuminating figures in the doorway. Figures with wands raised, with masks covering their faces, with cold laughter that made Harry's blood freeze. Voldemort. He stood in the doorway, tall, pale, snake-like, his red eyes glowing in the darkness. His wand was raised. His lips were curved in a smile. Step aside, girl. Not Harry. Please, not Harry. Take me instead. Step aside, silly girl. Not Harry. Please, I'll do anything. The green light erupted from Voldemort's wand. Lily fell, and Harry woke screaming. He didn't remember the screaming. He didn't remember Ron shaking him awake, or Hermione bursting into the boys' dormitory despite the stairs' attempts to throw her back, or Neville running to get Madame Pomfrey. He remembered the green light, and the sound of his mother's body hitting the floor. I'm sorry, Harry gasped, curled on his side, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? Ron's voice was frantic. You didn't do anything. I saw it. I saw her die. I saw her fall. And I couldn't stop it. I couldn't save her. You were a baby. I could have done something. What? What could a 1-year-old have done against the darkest wizard in history? Harry didn't answer. Because in the dream, in the moment before Voldemort cast the curse, he'd felt something. A stirring in his chest. A flicker of magic that had tried to rise, tried to protect, tried to save, and failed. The seals, Harry whispered. They were already there. Dumbledore put the first seal on me when I was 15 months old. But the dream was from before that, from the night my parents died. The seal wasn't there yet. So why couldn't I? He stopped. Hermione's face had gone very pale. Harry, she said carefully, what if the seals weren't just placed on you as a baby? What if they were placed on you before you were born? That's impossible. Is it? Your mother was a powerful witch. Your father was pure blood. They knew Voldemort was after them. Knew he'd killed your grandparents, your great-uncles, everyone who stood in his way. What if they asked Dumbledore to seal your magic before you were even born? To hide you from the prophecy? Hide me? Prophecies track magical signatures. If your magic was suppressed, if you registered as a squib or weaker, the prophecy might not have been able to find you. Might have looked elsewhere. But Voldemort still found them. Because someone betrayed them. Wormtail. He told Voldemort where they were hiding. The prophecy didn't lead him there. Peter did. Harry's head spun. Seals before birth. Prophecies that could be fooled. Parents who had tried, and failed, to save their child. What does this change? He asked. Hermione met his eyes. It changes everything. If the seals were placed before you were born, they're not just suppressors. They're part of you. Woven into your magical core at the deepest possible level. And when Fawkes burned them away, he didn't just break chains. He broke something fundamental. Yes. So I'm not just unsealed. I'm reborn. Ron finished quietly. The word hung in the air. Harry thought about the phoenix, about fire and ash and rising from destruction. About Fawkes, who had burned himself to nothing and been reborn countless times over centuries. The fire is yours, the phoenix had said. Asterisk always has been. Always will be. Asterisk. Reborn. Harry whispered. And somewhere deep in his chest, deeper than the fragment, deeper than the seals, deeper than the prophecy itself, something stirred. Something that felt like beginning. Fawkes appeared at dawn. Harry was sitting on the windowsill of the dormitory, watching the sun rise over the mountains, when a flash of scarlet and gold landed on his shoulder. You knew, Harry said quietly. About the seals. About the fragment. About everything. The phoenix trilled softly. Why didn't you tell me? Fawkes tilted his head, golden eyes gleaming. Because you weren't ready. And now? Now you are. Harry looked out the window. The sun was climbing higher, burning away the morning mist, painting the world in shades of gold and rose. What happens next? Fawkes pressed their cheeks together. Fire, the phoenix seemed to say. Asterisk rebirth. The burning away of everything that came before. Asterisk. And after the fire? After the fire. Everything. Harry closed his eyes and let the dawn wash over him. End of chapter 7. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag chapter 8. The Phoenix's bond. The bond deepened over the following weeks. Not in dramatic flashes of fire or earth-shaking magic, but in small ways. Quiet ways. Ways that Harry noticed only when he stopped to pay attention. Fawkes knew when Harry was hungry before Harry knew himself. The phoenix would appear at his shoulder during breakfast, trilling softly, and moments later Harry's stomach would growl. He knew when Harry was tired, would nudge him toward the dormitory with a gentle beak, refusing to leave until Harry lay down. He knew when Harry was scared, would press his warm body against Harry's chest, letting his heartbeat slow to match the phoenix's steady rhythm. And he knew when the fragment stirred. Those were the worst moments. The fragment would wake in the darkness, a cold slithering presence at the edge of Harry's consciousness, whispering things he didn't want to hear. Asterisk, you're alone. No one understands. They're all going to leave you, just like your parents left you, just like Dumbledore used you. Asterisk. And then Fawkes would sing. The phoenix's song wasn't loud. It was barely a whisper, really, a soft trill that vibrated through the air like a plucked harp string. But it cut through the fragment's whispers like a blade through silk. The cold presence would retreat, hissing, and Harry would be alone in his own mind again. Thank you? Harry whispered one night, curled in his bed, Fawkes warm against his chest. The phoenix blinked slowly. Always. Professor McGonagall noticed the bond before anyone else. He's never been like this, she said one afternoon, watching Fawkes preen Harry's hair during a free period. The phoenix's talons were gentle, almost tender, working through the tangles with surprising delicacy. Dumbledore's familiar has always been independent. Loyal, yes. Affectionate, sometimes. But never attached. What's the difference? Harry asked. McGonagall considered the question. Attachment implies choice. Fawkes didn't bond with Dumbledore because he chose him. He bonded because Dumbledore was the headmaster, and phoenixes have always been drawn to Hogwarts. But you... She paused. He chose you, Mr. Potter. Deliberately. Intentionally. Against Dumbledore's wishes. He told me the phoenix acted on his own. He told you the truth. For once. Harry stroked Fawkes' feathers, feeling the warmth radiate through his fingers. Why would Fawkes choose me over Dumbledore? McGonagall's expression flickered, something complicated and sad. Perhaps because Dumbledore has become someone the Phoenix no longer recognizes. Someone shaped by 45 years of difficult choices and terrible compromises. She met Harry's eyes. Phoenixes see truth, Mr. Potter. Even when we hide it from ourselves. That night, Harry dreamed of fire. Not the cold blue flames of the fragment's corridor, but warm fire. Golden fire. Fire that reminded him of Fawkes' feathers, of the sorting, of the moment the seals had shattered and his magic had roared to life for the first time. He stood in the center of a great hall, circular, ancient, with a domed ceiling that opened to the stars. The walls were covered in murals, phoenixes rising from ashes, wizards raising wands, battles fought and won and lost across centuries. And in the center of the hall, waiting, Fawkes. But different. The phoenix was larger here, larger than in the waking world, his wings spanning twice their normal width, his feathers burning with inner light. His golden eyes held galaxies. You came, Fawkes said. Not trilled. Not communicated through feelings. spoke. Harry's breath caught. You can talk? Asterisk. In this place. The space between dreaming and waking. The place where bonds are forged. Asterisk. What place is this? Asterisk. The heart of the bond. Every phoenix and wizard who has ever been joined has a space like this. A meeting ground between souls. Yours has been empty for 11 years. Waiting. Asterisk. Waiting for what? Asterisk. For you to be ready. Asterisk. Harry walked toward the phoenix, his bare feet silent on the stone floor. The murals seemed to watch him as he passed, ancient wizards nodding in approval, phoenixes dipping their heads in greeting. I'm not ready, Harry admitted. I don't know anything. I can barely control my magic. The fragment is getting stronger. And Dumbledore. Asterisk. Dumbledore is afraid. Asterisk. Of what? Asterisk. Of you? Of what you represent. Of the truth he's been running from for 45 years. Asterisk. Harry stopped in front of the phoenix, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his feathers. What truth? Fawkes lowered his head until his golden eyes were level with Harry's green ones. Asterisk. That he made a terrible mistake. That the seals weren't necessary. That you could have been whole, powerful, free, if he'd only trusted in the prophecy instead of trying to control it. Asterisk. The prophecy says the phoenix's fire will burn the fragment clean. Asterisk. Yes. Asterisk. But you could have done that years ago. When I was a baby. When the fragment was weaker. Asterisk. Yes. Asterisk. Why didn't you? Fawkes was silent for a long moment. The stars above them wheeled slowly across the domed ceiling, constellations shifting and reforming. Asterisk. Because Dumbledore asked me not to. Asterisk. Harry's blood went cold. He asked you to leave the fragment inside me? Asterisk. He asked me to wait. To give him time. To let him find another way. A safer way. A way that wouldn't risk your life. Asterisk. But there is no other way. Asterisk. No. There isn't. And Dumbledore knows this. Has known it for years. But he couldn't bring himself to make the choice. To risk your death. To gamble everything on a phoenix's fire. Asterisk. So he chose to keep me weak instead. Asterisk. He chose to keep you alive. In his mind, a weak, sealed, controlled Harry Potter was better than a dead one. Asterisk. Harry's hands curled into fists. That wasn't his choice to make. Asterisk. No. It wasn't. Asterisk. Then why did you listen to him? Fawkes' feathers flickered, gold to red, red to gold, a shifting kaleidoscope of fire. Asterisk. Because I loved him. Because he was my partner for decades. Because I believed, foolishly, that he knew what was best. Asterisk. And now? Asterisk. Now I know that even the wisest wizards can be wrong. Even the best intentions can curdle into something dark. Even love. Asterisk. The phoenix's voice dropped. Asterisk. Even love can become a cage. Asterisk. Harry woke with tears on his face. The dormitory was dark, his roommates asleep, their breathing soft and rhythmic. Fawkes was curled on the pillow beside him, golden eyes open, watching. You should have burned the seals off years ago. Harry whispered. You should have freed me when I was a baby. Before the Dursleys. Before the cupboard. Before everything. Fawkes trilled softly, a sad, mournful sound. I know. Then why didn't you? The phoenix pressed his warm head against Harry's cheek. Because I was afraid too. Harry closed his eyes. And somewhere deep in his chest, the bond between them pulsed, warm and golden and alive. Not just magic. Not just companionship. Something deeper. Something that felt like family. The next morning, Harry walked into the great hall with Fawkes on his shoulder and found the Slytherin table staring. Not unusual. They always stared. But today, their stares were different. Sharper. More focused. Draco Malfoy sat at the center of the table, his silver blonde hair slicked back, his gray eyes cold. He was watching Harry with an expression that hovered somewhere between envy and contempt. "Potter," Draco called as Harry passed. "Still playing with birds?" Harry stopped, turned, walked toward the Slytherin table. The students around Draco shrank back, not from Harry, but from the Phoenix. Fawkes' feathers were glowing brighter than usual, his golden eyes fixed on Draco with an intensity that made the temperature drop. "Fawkes isn't a bird," Harry said calmly. "He's a phoenix. There's a difference." "Is there?" "They both have feathers. They both fly. They both—" "Can your bird burn through dark magic?" Harry interrupted. "Can your bird heal wounds with his tears? Can your bird be reborn from ashes?" Draco's smirk faltered. "Fawkes chose me," Harry continued. "Not Dumbledore. Not Hogwarts. Me. Because he saw something in me worth bonding with. What does your father's peacock see in you?" The Slytherin table went silent. Draco's face flushed pink, then red, then almost purple. "How dare you?" "The truth?" Harry leaned closer, his voice dropping. "The truth is that you're scared, Malfoy. Scared of me. Scared of what I represent. Scared that your father's money and your pureblood name won't protect you from what's coming." "And what's coming, Potter?" Harry smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Fire." He turned and walked away, Fawkes warm on his shoulder, the Slytherin table silent behind him. Ron caught up to him at the Gryffindor table, eyes wide. "That was brilliant." His face, I thought he was going to cry. "He's not worth crying over." "Maybe not. But he's definitely worth embarrassing." Harry sat down and reached for the toast. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. He never stood up to anyone like that before. Never had the confidence. Never had the power. The seals had taken all of that from him. But the seals were gone now. And Harry was done being small. Hermione found them. After breakfast, a book tucked under her arm and a worried expression on her face. "I've been reading about Phoenix bonds," she said without preamble, sliding onto the bench beside Harry. "They're rare, incredibly rare. Only about one every few centuries." "How rare?" "There have only been 12 documented bonds in the last 1,000 years. Merlin had one. The founders shared one. A few others scattered through history, most of them great heroes or legendary wizards." Harry glanced at Fawkes. "And me. And you. But here's the thing, every recorded bond between a phoenix and a wizard ended the same way." "What way?" Hermione hesitated. "The wizard died," she said quietly. "Almost always in battle. But sometimes," she swallowed, "sometimes they just faded. The bond consumed them, burned through their magic and their life force until there was nothing left." Ron's face went pale. "You're saying the bond could kill Harry?" "I'm saying the bond is powerful. More powerful than anything we've ever seen. And powerful magic always has a cost." Harry thought about Fawkes, about the warmth in his chest, the presence at the edge of his awareness, the way the Phoenix's song could banish the fragment's whispers. "I'll pay the cost," he said. "Harry, the fragment is killing me anyway. Slowly, quietly, eating away at my soul from the inside. If the bond gives me a chance to fight back, to win, to survive, then I'll pay whatever cost it demands. But what if the cost is your life? Then at least I'll die fighting." Hermione's eyes filled with tears. Ron grabbed Harry's shoulder, hard, and didn't let go. And Fawkes sang, softly, sadly, beautifully, a song of fire and ash and the terrible, wonderful weight of choice. That afternoon, Dumbledore summoned Harry to his office. The headmaster looked worse than before, thinner, paler, his hands shaking as he poured tea. The silver instruments on his desk had stopped chiming. The portraits on the walls were quiet. "The bond is strengthening," Dumbledore said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. I can feel it. Even from here." Fawkes is distant now. Present, but not present. His attention is always on you. He chose me. So I've noticed. Dumbledore set down the teapot and met Harry's eyes. His blue gaze was tired, exhausted, really, but there was something else beneath the fatigue. Something that looked like resignation. I've been researching the bond. The headmaster continued, looking for precedents, patterns, anything that might tell us what's coming. And there's nothing. The bond between you and Fawkes is unique, unprecedented. Even Merlin's bond wasn't this deep. Fawkes has given you something he's never given anyone. What? Dumbledore's voice dropped. A piece of himself. His immortality, or part of it. That's why you're healing faster, growing stronger, recovering from injuries that would take others weeks. Fawkes is sharing his life force with you. Harry's heart pounded. Is that bad? I don't know. It's never happened before. Phoenixes are immortal. They burn and are reborn, over and over, for centuries. But if Fawkes has given you a piece of that immortality, I might live longer? You might never die. The words hung in the air like a curse. Never die. Harry thought about the fragment, about Voldemort's obsession with immortality, his fear of death, his willingness to split his soul into pieces just to cheat the grave. I don't want to be immortal, Harry whispered. Neither did Merlin, in the end. He lived for 300 years, watched everyone he loved grow old and die while he remained unchanged. By the time he finally passed, he was grateful. Death had become a mercy. Is that what's waiting for me? Dumbledore shook his head. I don't know. I wish I did. But I don't. Harry looked down at Fawkes, curled on the arm of the chair, golden eyes half closed, feathers glowing softly in the candlelight. You should have told me, Harry said. About the bond. About the cost. About everything. I should have done a lot of things. Dumbledore's voice cracked. I should have protected you, trusted you, loved you the way you deserved. But I was afraid of the prophecy, afraid of the fragment, afraid of what you might become if I didn't control every variable. And now I'm watching a Phoenix bond with an 11-year-old boy, and I realize that I never had any control at all. The universe doesn't care about my plans. Fate doesn't consult me before making its decisions. And you, Harry, the headmaster's eyes glistened. You were never mine to shape. No, Harry agreed. I wasn't. He rose from his chair, Fawkes fluttering to his shoulder. Where are you going? Dumbledore asked. To practice. To train. To become strong enough to destroy the fragment without dying. Harry paused at the door. And to prove that even without your seals, without your control, without your plans, I can still be a hero. He left the headmaster sitting alone in his office, surrounded by silent portraits and silent instruments, and the ghost of 45 years of mistakes. Fawkes sang as they walked through the corridors. Students stopped to listen. Professors paused mid-lecture. Even Peeves the poltergeist hovered in mid-air, his usual mischief forgotten, his eyes wide with something that looked like wonder. The song wasn't sad. It wasn't happy. It was true. And somewhere deep in Harry's chest, deeper than the fragment, deeper than the magic, deeper than the bond itself, something answered. I'm ready, Harry thought. Ready for what? Ready to burn. Fawkes trilled in agreement. And the fire within Harry, the fire that had been sealed for 11 years, the fire that was waking slowly, hungrily, impatiently, burned a little brighter. End of Chapter 8. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag Chapter 9, the hidden limiters. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday in October. Harry was in the room of requirement, a place he'd discovered by accident while fleeing Peeves, and had since claimed as his private training space. The room had transformed itself into a circular chamber with padded floors, target dummies along the walls, and a ceiling that shifted to match whatever weather Harry needed. Today, he needed rain. The fragment had been restless all morning, whispering, scratching, pressing against the edges of Harry's consciousness like a prisoner testing the walls of his cell. Fawkes had sung 3 times before breakfast, but the fragment kept coming back, hungrier each time. "You're weak," it hissed. Asterisk, you've always been weak. The seals didn't make you weak, they just revealed what you already were. Asterisk. I'm not weak, Harry muttered, raising his hand. Fire erupted from his palm, not the controlled sphere he'd been practicing, but a wild, raging torrent that blasted across the room and incinerated 3 target dummies in seconds. The fragment laughed. Asterisk anger. Yes. Feed me. Let me taste your rage. Asterisk. Harry clamped down on his emotions, visualizing a wall slamming shut between himself and the darkness. The fire died. The fragment retreated, hissing. But not far enough. You're pushing yourself too hard. Harry spun. Hermione stood in the doorway of the room of requirement, her arms full of books, her hair plastered to her face by the magical rain. Behind her, Ron peered over her shoulder, looking impressed by the smoldering dummies. How did you find me? The map, Ron said, holding up a piece of parchment. Fred and George gave it to me. Said you might need it. The map? Marauder's map. Shows everyone in Hogwarts. We saw your name moving around in a corridor that doesn't exist and figured. You figured I'd found a secret room and didn't tell you? Ron shrugged. Something like that. Harry sighed and waved his hand. The rain stopped. The ceiling cleared, revealing a warm, golden light that filled the chamber. Fine. Come in. But don't touch anything. They settled on the padded floor, books spread between them. Fawkes curled on a perch the room had manifested near the ceiling. The Phoenix's golden eyes tracked their every movement. We've been researching seals, Hermione said without preamble. Not just the ones on you, but magical limiters in general. How they're woven, how they're maintained, how they can be detected. Detected? To see if there are more. Ones Dumbledore didn't tell you about. Harry's blood went cold. You think there are more seals? He said he wove 3. The first at 15 months, the second at 3, the third at 5. He also said he'd been planning something for 45 years. Do you really trust him to tell you everything? Harry didn't answer. Because no, he didn't trust Dumbledore. Not fully. Not anymore. Show me, he said. Hermione opened the largest book, an ancient tome bound in what looked like dragon hide, its pages yellowed and brittle. This is Magical Restraints Throughout History by Bartholomew Knott. It was banned in 1723 because it contained detailed instructions for weaving limiters into unwilling subjects. But the theory is sound. She flipped to a marked page, revealing a diagram of the human body covered in glowing symbols. Limiters work by attaching to the magical core, the source of a wizard's power. They're usually woven in childhood, when the core is still developing, because adult cores reject foreign magic. The younger the subject, the deeper the limiters can be embedded. Dumbledore started when I was 15 months old. Exactly. That's the perfect age, old enough that your core had formed, young enough that it was still malleable. The first seal would have been the foundation, anchoring the others in place. Ron leaned forward. How do you detect them? Magical resonance scanning. It's a diagnostic spell typically used by healers to assess core damage. But it can also reveal foreign magic embedded in the core, like limiters. Can you cast it? Hermione hesitated. I've read the theory, but I've never actually. I'll do it. Harry's voice was steady. Teach me the wand movements. My magic will handle the rest. Harry, that's dangerous. If you cast it wrong, then teach me to cast it right. An hour later, Harry stood in the center of the room, his wand raised, his eyes closed. The spell was complicated, a 7-part incantation with wand movements that traced the shape of the human heart. Hermione had walked him through it a dozen times, correcting his pronunciation, adjusting his wrist angle, making him practice the movements until his arm ached. Ready? She asked. No. Good. Go. Harry took a breath. And cast. Asterisk. Revel Arcordis Magici. Asterisk. The spell burst from his wand, not as a beam or a bolt, but as a wave of silver light that washed over his body from head to toe. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the symbols appeared. They glowed through his robes, faint at first, then brighter, pulsing with an angry red light that made Ron gasp and Hermione cover her mouth with both hands. There weren't 3. There were 7. 7 seals woven into Harry's magical core, not 3. 7, layered like the rings of a tree, each one deeper than the last. The first, the foundation, was barely visible, buried so deep it was almost part of him. But the others were clear. And the 7th, the newest, the one on top, was glowing brightest of all. That's not 15 months, Ron whispered. Or 3. Or 5. That's recent. Harry's voice was hollow. That seal was woven recently, within the last few months. Before you came to Hogwarts. Hermione breathed. Dumbledore put a seal on me this summer, while I was still with the Dursleys. While I was waiting for Hagrid to come and tell me I was a wizard. He lowered his wand. The symbols faded, but the knowledge didn't. They sat in silence for a long time. Fawkes flew down from his perch and settled on Harry's lap, his warmth a small comfort against the cold spreading through Harry's chest. 7 seals. Not 3. 7. He lied, Harry said finally. He stood in his office and looked me in the eyes and told me he'd woven 3 seals. And he lied. Maybe he didn't weave them all, Ron offered. Maybe someone else. No. Harry's voice was sharp. He said he wove the seals himself. All of them. He said he held me in his arms and bound my magic to save me. He didn't say 3. He didn't say 7. He just said the seals. Lying by omission, Hermione murmured. It's still lying. What do we do? Harry looked at his friends, at their scared, determined faces, and felt something settle in his chest. Not rage. Not despair. Clarity. We find out what the 7th seal does, he said. And then we decide whether to tell Dumbledore we know about it. Or whether to destroy it ourselves, Ron added. Or that. Hermione was already reaching for another book. The 7th seal is the newest, which means it's also the most superficial. Deeply woven limiters are harder to detect and harder to remove. But a recent seal might be vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? Phoenix fire. Harry looked down at Fawkes. The Phoenix's golden eyes met his. Yes, that gaze seemed to say. Asterisk, I can burn it. If you want. Asterisk. Not yet, Harry said. First, we find out what it's doing. Then we decide. Harry, I'm not going to let him control me anymore. But I'm also not going to destroy something without understanding what it is. That's what got me into this mess in the first place. Ron nodded slowly. Fair enough. So how do we figure out what the seal is suppressing? Hermione bit her lip. There's a spell, another diagnostic. It's even more complex than the first, and it requires the caster to enter the subject's magical core. Metaphorically, it's invasive. Do it. Harry. I said do it. The second spell was worse than the first. Harry felt it the moment Hermione cast. A cold intrusion, like someone reaching into his chest and wrapping fingers around his heart. He gasped, stumbling, and would have fallen if Ron hadn't caught him. I'm sorry, Hermione whispered, her wand trembling. I'm so sorry. Keep going. She kept going. The spell pulled Harry inside himself, not his body, but his magic. His core. The source of everything that made him a wizard. It was beautiful. A swirling galaxy of golden light, spinning slowly in the darkness of his soul. Stars of power dotted the expanse, some small, some large, some pulsing with barely contained energy. And wrapped around it all, like chains around a captive star, were the seals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th, the newest, glowing bright red, anchored to the others, feeding on them somehow. It's a limiter, Hermione's voice echoed through the space. But it's not suppressing your magic. It's suppressing your memories. Harry's blood ran cold. What memories? I don't know. The seal is blocking access to a specific part of your core, the part that stores emotional memories from early childhood. Whatever's in there, Dumbledore didn't want you to remember it. The fragment stirred. I know what's in there, it hissed. Asterisk, I've always known. The question is, are you brave enough to look? Asterisk. Harry reached toward the seal. Harry, don't. His fingers touched the glowing red chains. And the world exploded. He was in Godric's Hollow. Not the ruin he'd visited in his dreams, but the village as it had been before. Before the attack. Before the green light. Before everything. The cottage stood at the end of a winding lane, smoke curling from its chimney, flowers blooming in window boxes. Through the window, Harry could see his mother, young, alive, happy, rocking in a chair by the fire. And there in her arms, a baby. Him. But someone else was in the room. A man with silver hair and half-moon spectacles, sitting across from Lily, his expression grave. He's special, Albus. Lily was saying. I know you see it too. The way magic responds to him. Even now, even as a baby. He's going to be powerful. Yes, Dumbledore agreed. Which is why we must be careful. Careful? The prophecy, Lily. You know what it says. Voldemort will stop at nothing to destroy Harry. And if his magic manifests too early, if it draws attention, you want to suppress him. I want to protect him. Lily's arms tightened around the baby. There has to be another way. There is. But it requires sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Dumbledore leaned forward. I can weave limiters into Harry's core, seals that will suppress his magic until he's old enough to defend himself. They won't harm him. They won't change who he is. They'll just keep him hidden. Hidden from who? From Voldemort. From his followers. From anyone who might use Harry for their own purposes. Lily was silent for a long moment. James won't agree to this. James doesn't have to know. Harry watched his mother's face, saw the conflict warring behind her eyes. Love for her son. Fear for his safety. Trust in the man sitting across from her. And then, do it, Lily whispered. But not all of it. Leave something behind. A spark. A light. So he knows, even in the darkness, that he's not alone. Dumbledore nodded. And the vision shifted. The second memory came faster. Lily was older now, thinner, paler, dark circles under her eyes. The cottage had changed too. Curtains drawn. Wards blazing at every window and door. The smell of fear hung in the air like smoke. He's coming, Lily said. I can feel it. The prophecy. The prophecy is not certain, Dumbledore said. There are always variables. Not this time. I've seen it, in my dreams. Voldemort has found us. Someone betrayed us. Who? I don't know. But he's coming, Albus. Soon. And Harry. Harry will be protected. How? Your seals are in place. His magic is suppressed. He can't defend himself. Then you will defend him. Lily's eyes flashed. You're asking me to die. Dumbledore didn't flinch. I'm asking you to make a choice. The same choice every parent makes when they bring a child into a dangerous world. Will you run? Or will you stand? I'll stand. Then stand. And when Voldemort comes for Harry, do not step aside. Do not beg for mercy. Do not give him what he wants. Face him, and let your love be the shield that protects your son. The blood protection. Yes. It won't be enough. It will be enough to keep him alive. And alive is all we can hope for. Lily reached down and touched Harry's face, softly, tenderly, with tears streaming down her cheeks. I love you, she whispered. More than anything. More than magic. more than life itself. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. The vision blurred. The third memory was the worst. The cottage was dark. The wards had fallen. Somewhere in another room, James was shouting, then silence. Lily stood in the nursery, her wand raised, her body blocking the crib. I'm not going to tell you again. Voldemort's voice came from the hallway. Step aside, girl. Not Harry. Please, not Harry. Take me instead. Step aside, silly girl. Not Harry. Please, I'll do anything. The green light filled the room. Lily fell. But before she hit the ground, before the curse could turn toward the crib, something changed. The seals around Harry's core flared, not suppressing, but redirecting. Channeling Lily's dying magic into the baby, weaving it into his very soul, creating a protection that would last for years. And in that moment, in the space between Lily's last breath and Voldemort's final curse, Dumbledore's face appeared in the window, watching, waiting, as if he'd known exactly what would happen, as if he'd planned it. Harry screamed. The vision shattered. He was back in the room of requirement, gasping on the floor, Ron and Hermione hovering over him with white faces. Harry, Harry, can you hear me? He was at the window. Harry's voice was wrecked. Dumbledore. He was there. He watched my mother die. He watched the curse rebound. And he did nothing. Ron's face went gray. Are you sure? I saw it. The vision, the memory, whatever it was. Dumbledore was standing outside the cottage window while Voldemort killed my parents. He was just watching. Hermione was crying, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. The seal. The seventh seal. It wasn't suppressing your magic. It was suppressing the memory of Dumbledore at Godric's Hollow. He didn't want me to know he was there. He didn't want anyone to know. Harry sat up slowly, Fawkes pressing warm against his chest. The phoenix was trembling, feathers vibrating with barely contained rage. You knew, Harry whispered to the bird. You knew Dumbledore was there that night. You knew he let my parents die. Fawkes trilled, a broken, sorrowful sound. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because he was my partner. Because I wanted to believe, needed to believe, that there was a reason. A good reason. Is there? The phoenix hung his head. No. Harry stood. His legs were shaking. His hands were shaking. Everything was shaking. The room, the walls, the very air around him. Harry, what are you going to do? Hermione asked. Harry looked at the door. At the castle beyond. At the headmaster's office, 3 floors up, where the man who had planned his parents' death, who had woven seals into his soul, who had controlled every moment of his life, sat waiting. I'm going to find out the truth, Harry said. All of it. And then, he paused. Fawkes flew to his shoulder. The bond between them pulsed, warm and golden and ready. Then I'm going to burn it all down. End of chapter 9. What if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting? Dumbledore's plan revealed. Chapter 10. The Forbidden Discovery. The restricted section of the Hogwarts library was supposed to be inaccessible to first years. But Harry had stopped caring about supposed to. Fawkes flew ahead, his scarlet feathers glowing faintly in the darkness, illuminating rows upon rows of chains, books bound in leather so old it had turned to dust, scrolls sealed with wax that had long since crumbled, shelves that stretched so high they disappeared into shadow. How do we find what we're looking for? Ron whispered. His freckled face was pale in the phoenix light, his wand clutched tightly in his hand. We don't even know what we're looking for, Hermione added. She'd insisted on coming, had practically demanded, her voice still hoarse from crying earlier. Records connected to Dumbledore. That's all Harry said. Then we look for anything with his name. That could be hundreds of books. Then we look faster. Harry walked deeper into the restricted section, his footsteps silent on the stone floor. The air grew colder with every step, not the natural cold of a drafty castle, but something deeper. Something that felt like wards. Protective magic woven into the very walls. Fawkes trilled softly. This way. The phoenix veered left, toward a section of shelves that seemed older than the others. The chains thicker, the dust heavier, the shadows darker. Harry followed without hesitation. Harry, wait! Hermione grabbed his arm. These books are cursed. I can feel it. If we touch the wrong one, then we don't touch the wrong one. And how do we know which ones are wrong? Harry looked at Fawkes. The phoenix landed on a shelf near the back of the section, a shelf that appeared empty at first glance. But when Fawkes pressed his beak against the wood, the shelf shifted. The wood slid aside, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. Inside, a single book. It was smaller than the others, no larger than Harry's hand, bound in leather that had once been crimson but had faded to the color of dried blood. There was no title on the spine, no author's name, nothing to identify what it was. But Harry knew. This is what I came for. He reached for the book. Harry, don't. His fingers touched the leather, and the world screamed. Not literally. But the wards around the book shrieked, a high-pitched magical wail that echoed through the restricted section, rattling chains and shaking dust from the shelves. Somewhere in the distance, Harry heard footsteps. Shouting. The sounds of professors responding to the alarm. We have to go. Ron grabbed Harry's arm. No. Harry held the book tight against his chest. This is what Dumbledore's been hiding. I can feel it. Harry, they're coming. Then we run. They ran. Fawkes flew ahead, lighting the way through the maze of shelves, his phoenix song somehow quieting the alarms as they passed. The shrieking faded behind them, swallowed by golden notes that wrapped around the restricted section like a blanket. Ron stumbled over a chain. Hermione caught him. Harry kept running, the book pressed against his heart, its warmth seeping through his robes like a second heartbeat. They burst out of the library and into the corridor, and nearly collided with Professor Snape. The potions master stood in their path, his black robes billowing, his greasy hair framing a face twisted with fury. His wand was raised. His eyes, black, cold, dead, fixed on Harry with an intensity that made the fragments stir. Mr. Potter. Snape's voice was silk wrapped around steel. The restricted section alarms are not meant to be tested by first years. We weren't testing anything, Harry said. His voice was steady, steadier than he felt. We were looking for a book. Without permission. Since when do I need permission to read? Snape's lip curled. Since you set off every ward in the restricted section and woke half the castle. He stepped closer, his wand still raised. Give me the book, Potter. No. Give me the book. No. Snape's wand hand twitched. You are a first-year student. You have no right. I have every right. Harry's voice dropped, low and dangerous, echoing off the stone walls. This book belonged to my parents. It has their magic on it. Their blood. And you. He met Snape's eyes. You don't get to take it from me. Snape went very still. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered across his face. Something that looked like recognition, or guilt, or fear. Then the mask slid back into place. The headmaster will hear of this. Good. I was going to visit him anyway. Harry stepped around Snape, half expecting a curse to hit his back, and walked toward the staircase. Ron and Hermione followed, pale but resolute. Fawkes flew overhead, golden eyes fixed on Snape until they turned the corner, and the potion's master disappeared from view. That was insane, Ron breathed. He could have killed you. He didn't. Because you had a phoenix on your side. Harry looked at the book in his hands. The leather was warm now, almost hot, pulsing with a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. Let's find out why. They didn't go to Dumbledore's office. Not yet. Instead, Harry led Ron and Hermione to the Room of Requirement, the same chamber where they'd discovered the seventh seal. The room had transformed again, this time into a cozy study with a crackling fire, comfortable chairs, and a desk large enough to hold the mysterious book. Fawkes settled on the mantelpiece, his feathers glowing softly. "Open it," Brown said. Harry opened it. The pages were filled with handwriting, not printed text, but handwritten words, cramped and hurried, as if the writer had been running out of time. Some pages were stained with what looked like dried blood. Others had been torn out entirely. But the first page told Harry everything he needed to know. The private journal of Lily J. Potter. Asterisk record of Dumbledore's plans. 1979-1981 asterisk. Harry's hands shook. "This is my mother's journal," he whispered. "She kept a journal. About Dumbledore." "Read it," Hermione said softly. "Read everything." Harry turned the page. October 12, 1979. Asterisk Albus came to the cottage today. He looked older than usual, tired, worn, like a man carrying too many secrets. James made tea. I held Harry. And Albus told us about the prophecy. Asterisk. Asterisk, the prophecy says our son will defeat the Dark Lord. It says he will have power Voldemort knows not. It says, and this is the part Albus seemed most interested in, that neither can live while the other survives. Asterisk. Asterisk, James was furious. "You're talking about turning our son into a soldier," he said. "He's not even a year old." Asterisk. Albus didn't deny it. Asterisk, he said the war requires sacrifice. He said Harry is the key to everything, the only one who can end the darkness. He said we need to prepare him, train him, shape him into a weapon. Asterisk. I asked what that meant. Asterisk. Albus looked at Harry, really looked at him, and said, "It means the seals are only the beginning." Asterisk. December 3rd, 1979. Asterisk. I confronted Albus today about the seals. He'd woven the first one into Harry's core, the foundation, he called it. He said more would follow as Harry grew, each one strengthening the protection. Asterisk. But protection from what? Asterisk. The Dark Lord? The fragment? Or something else? Asterisk. Asterisk. Albus wouldn't answer. He just looked at me with those sad blue eyes and said, "Trust me, Lily. I know what I'm doing." Asterisk. I want to trust him. Asterisk. But every time I hold Harry, every time I feel his magic trying to rise, trying to grow, the seal pushes it back down. Makes him smaller. Weaker. Less. Asterisk. This isn't protection. This is imprisonment. February 17, 1980. Asterisk. I found Albus in Godric's Hollow tonight. Not visiting, watching. He was standing in the graveyard, just outside the wards, staring at our cottage like he was waiting for something. Asterisk. Asterisk. When I asked what he was doing, he said, "Ensuring the prophecy unfolds. As intended." Asterisk. As intended. Asterisk. Not as fated. Not as destined. Asterisk. As intended. Asterisk. James says I'm being paranoid. He says Dumbledore is the greatest wizard alive, that he's doing everything he can to protect us. Asterisk. Asterisk. But I've started keeping a second journal. One Albus doesn't know about. One where I write down everything he tells me, every plan, every sacrifice, every hint of what's to come. Asterisk. If something happens to us, to James, to me, Harry will need to know the truth. He'll need to know what Dumbledore really is. July 31st, 1980. Harry's first birthday. Asterisk. Albus came to celebrate, or so he said. But he didn't bring gifts. He didn't sing songs. He pulled me aside while James was playing with Harry and said, "The fragment is already bonding to his soul. We need to accelerate the timeline." Asterisk. Accelerate the timeline. Asterisk. He wants to weave the second seal. Now. When Harry is barely a year old. Asterisk. I said no. Asterisk. He said, "The Dark Lord is growing stronger every day. If we don't contain the fragment, if we don't suppress his magic, Harry will be a beacon. A target. Everything we've worked for will be destroyed." Asterisk. Asterisk, I asked him what he meant by everything we've worked for. Asterisk. He didn't answer. But I saw it in his eyes. This isn't about protecting Harry. This is about control. October 12th, 1980. Asterisk, I've started writing down everything I remember about Albus's plans. The ones he's told me. The ones I've overheard. The ones I've pieced together from fragments of conversation and half-finished letters. Asterisk. Asterisk, here's what I know. Asterisk. Asterisk 1. Albus has been preparing for this war for decades. He's been placing people, followers, spies, agents, in key positions throughout the wizarding world. Asterisk. Asterisk 2. He knew about the prophecy before it was made. He was in the room at the Department of Mysteries when Trelawney spoke it. He didn't discover it, he orchestrated it. Asterisk. Asterisk 3. The seals on Harry's core aren't just protection. They're limiters. They're designed to suppress his magic. Until Albus decides he's ready to use it. Asterisk. Asterisk 4. The blood wards at the Dursleys' house aren't just for safety. They're for isolation. Albus wants Harry cut off from the wizarding world, alone, unhappy, desperate, so he'll be grateful when Hogwarts finally claims him. Asterisk. Asterisk 5. There's something Albus isn't telling anyone. Something bigger than the prophecy. Something he's been building toward for 45 years. Asterisk. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find out. October 25th, 1980. James confronted Albus today. Asterisk, he'd found my journal, not this one, the decoy I leave in my desk, and read about the seals. About the plans. About the isolation. Asterisk. He was furious. Asterisk. You're using our son. James shouted. You're using him as a pawn in a game he never agreed to play. Asterisk. Albus didn't deny it. Asterisk, he said. Every pawn dreams of becoming a queen. And Harry, if he survives, will be the most powerful piece on the board. Asterisk. James threw him out. Asterisk, but I know Albus. He won't stay away. He can't. Harry is too important to his plans. Asterisk. Asterisk, the fragment. The prophecy. The seals. Asterisk. It's all connected. And I'm running out of time to figure out how. October 31st, 1981. This is my last entry. Asterisk, the wards are failing. Someone betrayed us. I don't know who, but they told Voldemort where we're hiding. He's coming tonight. I can feel it. Asterisk. Asterisk, James is barricading the doors. I'm in the nursery with Harry. He's sleeping, peaceful, innocent, unaware that the world is about to end. Asterisk. Asterisk, I've hidden this journal in a place Albus will never find it. Woven with my own magic, my blood, my love, my protection. Only someone with my bloodline can access it. Asterisk. Harry, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. Asterisk, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry the seals made you weak. I'm sorry Albus used us all. Asterisk. But I need you to know the truth. Asterisk, Dumbledore isn't your enemy. But he isn't your friend either. He's something worse. Asterisk. He's a man who believes the ends justify the means. Asterisk, and you are the means. Asterisk. Asterisk, don't let him shape you, Harry. Don't let him break you into the weapon he wants. Asterisk. Be more. Be everything he never expected. Be free. I love you. I've always loved you. And I will die, tonight, to give you a chance at the life you deserve. Make it count. Mum. Harry closed the journal. Tears streamed down his face, hot and silent, dripping onto the leather cover, soaking into the pages where his mother's final words were written. Harry, Hermione whispered. Her voice was broken. Harry, I'm so sorry. She knew. Harry's voice cracked. She knew about the seals. About the isolation. About Dumbledore's plans. She knew everything, and she still loved you. Ron finished. She still died for you. That's not nothing, Harry. That's everything. Harry looked up at his friends, at their tear-streaked faces, their trembling hands, their fierce, unwavering loyalty. "My mother died to give me a chance," he said. "And I'm not going to waste it." He stood. Fawkes flew to his shoulder, wings spread, golden eyes blazing. "Where are you going?" Hermione asked. Harry looked toward the door. Room of requirement. 7th floor. Corridor beyond. Asterisk headmaster's office. 3 floors up. Asterisk. "The truth," Harry said. "I'm going to get the truth. And then..." He paused. The bond pulsed between him and Fawkes. Warm, golden, ready. "Then I'm going to decide what kind of person I want to be." He walked out of the room. Ron and Hermione followed. And somewhere in the shadows of Hogwarts, Dumbledore sat in his office, waiting. The final confrontation was coming. Neither of them was ready. But neither of them could stop it. End of Chapter 10. Hashtag what if Fawkes freed Harry's power at sorting. Dumbledore's plan revealed. Hashtag Chapter 11. The 45-year master plan. The gargoyle stepped aside without a password. Fawkes had flown ahead, perched on the stone creature's head, trilled once, and the wall simply opened. As if the castle itself recognized that secrets could no longer be contained. Harry climbed the spiral staircase alone. Ron and Hermione had wanted to come, had insisted, but Harry shook his head. "This is between me and him. If I'm not back in an hour," said McGonagall. "You're walking into a trap," Ron said. "Then I'll walk out." He'd left them in the corridor, Hermione crying, Ron pale as chalk, both of them holding each other's hands like children facing a storm. Now, alone in the staircase, Harry pressed his mother's journal against his chest and climbed. Dumbledore's office was dark when Harry entered. No fire in the hearth. No candles on the desks. The silver instruments sat silent, their chimes stilled. The portraits on the walls were empty, every single one, as if the former headmasters and headmistresses had fled rather than witness what was coming. But Dumbledore was there. Sitting behind his desk, head bowed, hands folded. His silver beard caught the faint moonlight streaming through the high windows. His half-moon spectacles sat on the desk before him, removed, set aside, as if he no longer wished to see clearly. "You found it," Dumbledore said. His voice was quiet. Tired. Broken. Harry held up the journal. "My mother's private records. The ones you didn't know about." "I knew about them." Harry froze. "What?" "I knew Lily kept a second journal. I knew she hid it somewhere in the cottage. I searched for it, afterwards, before the ruins were sealed. But her magic was strong. Too strong. I couldn't find it." Dumbledore looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, glistening. "I assumed it had been destroyed in the attack. It was hidden in the foundation, beneath the nursery floorboards. Fawkes led me to it." "Of course he did." Dumbledore's lips curved, a sad, broken smile. "He was always more loyal to your mother than to me. Even before the end." Harry walked to the desk. Didn't sit. Didn't ask permission. Just stood there, the journal between them like a judge's gavel. "I know about the prophecy," Harry said. "The real prophecy. The one you orchestrated." "I didn't orchestrate. You were in the room at the Department of Mysteries before Trelawney spoke it. You arranged for her to be there. You arranged for Snape to overhear. You arranged for Voldemort to hear a partial version, just enough to send him after my parents, but not enough to understand the full truth." Dumbledore's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. "Where did you read this?" "My mother's journal. She wrote everything. Your plans. Your manipulations. Your sacrifices. Lily didn't understand. She understood enough." Harry slammed the journal on the desk. The impact sent quills rolling, ink bottles toppling. "She understood that you let her die. That you stood outside their cottage window and watched while Voldemort murdered my father. While he murdered her. While he tried to murder me." Dumbledore flinched. I was not standing idle." His voice cracked. I was maintaining the wards, ensuring the blood protection would take. If I had intervened, if I had entered the cottage before the curse rebounded, you could have saved them. I could have destroyed everything. The protection required Lily's sacrifice, her choice, her willingness to die for you. If I had interrupted, the magic wouldn't have worked. Voldemort would have killed you. The prophecy would have been broken. And the war would have continued. I know. That's what you told my mother. That's what you told everyone. The greater good. Necessary sacrifices. The ends justify the means. Those were Grindelwald's words, Dumbledore whispered. Not mine. Never mine. Then why do you keep using them? The silence stretched between them, thick enough to choke on. Dumbledore rose from his chair. Slowly. Painfully. His body seemed older than it had been weeks ago, more frail, more fragile, as if the weight of 45 years was finally crushing him. Would you like to know the truth, Harry? The whole truth? Not the versions I told your parents. Not the versions I told the Order. But the truth I have carried alone for nearly half a century? Harry's heart pounded. Yes. Then sit down. This will take some time. Harry sat. Dumbledore walked to the window, his back to Harry, his silhouette framed by moonlight. When he spoke, his voice was distant, as if he were speaking from somewhere far away, somewhere dark. In 1938, I met a boy named Gellert Grindelwald. He was brilliant, charming, beautiful in the way that fire is beautiful, dangerous, consuming, irresistible. We became friends. Then more than friends. And together, we dreamed of a new world order. The greater good. Yes. We believed that wizards should rule over muggles, not out of cruelty, but out of benevolence. For their own good. For the good of magic. For the good of the world. But you fought him. After my sister died. After Ariana. Dumbledore's voice broke. He pressed his hand against the window frame, steadying himself. After she died, I realized what our dreams had cost. What our ambition had cost. I turned against Grindelwald. Defeated him in 1945. And I swore that I would never again let the pursuit of the greater good blind me to the value of individual lives. But you did. Dumbledore turned. His face was wet with tears. Yes, he whispered. I did. He walked back to the desk, lowered himself into his chair, and began to speak. The prophecy was not orchestrated. Not in the way you think. I did not plant Trelawney in the Department of Mysteries. I did not arrange for Snape to overhear. But I knew that a prophecy would be made. I had been tracking the signs for years. The alignment of magical forces. The convergence of fates. Everything pointed to a child being born who could defeat Voldemort. So you waited. I waited. And when the prophecy was spoken, when I heard the words, I made a choice. I chose to shape events, to guide them, to ensure that the child, that you, would survive long enough to fulfill your destiny. My parents' deaths were part of that shaping. Lily's death was a tragedy I did not foresee. I believed, I hoped, that the blood protection would activate without her dying. That her love would be enough. But Voldemort was unpredictable. You let her die. I let her make her own choice. She could have stepped aside. She could have saved herself. But she didn't. She chose to die for you, Harry. That was not my manipulation. That was her love. Love you used? Yes. Dumbledore met his eyes. I used her love. I used James's courage. I used Sirius's recklessness. I used Remus's guilt. I used everyone, to build the foundation for your survival. And I would do it again. Harry's blood boiled. Because the ends justify the means. Because the alternative is Voldemort winning. Because the alternative is decades more war. Because the alternative is millions of deaths, wizards and muggles, that I could have prevented. You don't know that. I've seen it. Dumbledore's voice dropped. Not through divination. Not through prophecy. Through experience. I have watched Dark Lords rise and fall for nearly a century. I have watched them destroy everything they touch. And I have learned that sometimes, the only way to stop a monster is to become something close to one yourself. Harry stared at the old man. At the tears on his cheeks. At the trembling hands. At the eyes that had seen too much and done too much and sacrificed too much. 45 years. Harry said. You said you've been planning for 45 years? Since before I was born. Since before my parents were born. What have you been planning, Dumbledore? What is the endgame? Dumbledore was silent for a long moment. Then he reached into his robe and pulled out a small crystal vial, filled with swirling silver mist. Memories. I have been planning, the headmaster said slowly, to create a savior who could do what I could not. What you could not? I could not defeat Grindelwald alone. I needed help. Abernathy, Goldstein, the entire wizarding world rallying behind me. And even then, the battle cost me everything. My sister. My brother's trust. My own peace of mind. But you won. I survived. There's a difference. He set the vial on the desk. Voldemort is worse than Grindelwald. Stronger. More cunning. More broken. He cannot be defeated by an army. He has already proven that. He cannot be defeated by politics. He has infiltrated the ministry itself. He cannot even be defeated by magic. He has mastered arts that no wizard has dared touch in centuries. Then how? Dumbledore met Harry's eyes. He can only be defeated by someone who shares his power. His connection to darkness. His willingness to walk the edge between light and shadow. Someone who can face him, not as an enemy, but as an equal. The prophecy. The prophecy recognized what I already knew. The only wizard who can defeat Voldemort is one marked by Voldemort himself. One who carries a piece of his soul. One who understands him, not through study, but through experience. You made me a Horcrux. I made nothing. Dumbledore's voice cracked like thunder. The fragment bonded to you because of Voldemort's curse and Lily's sacrifice. I did not create it. I did not encourage it. All I did was try to contain it, to keep it from destroying you before you were old enough to fight. The seals. The seals were necessary. The fragment is dark, Harry. It feeds on emotion. On pain. On fear. If I had not suppressed your magic, if I had let your power rise naturally, the fragment would have grown with it. Would have consumed you from the inside. You would have been Voldemort's puppet before your 10th birthday. And the Dursleys? The Blood Wards were necessary. Your mother's sacrifice created a protection that Voldemort could not touch. But the protection required you to call her sister's house home. Not just live there, but believe you belonged there. So you made sure I was miserable enough to need Hogwarts. I made sure you were alive. At what cost? Dumbledore's composure finally shattered. At the cost of everything. He slammed his fist on the desk, the first time Harry had ever seen him lose control. My reputation. My morality. My sleep. Every night, Harry. Every night I lie awake and see your face. The face of a child I failed. A child I used. A child I broke to save the world. Then why didn't you stop? Because the world needed saving. The portraits were returning now, filling their frames, watching in silence. Former headmasters and headmistresses with ancient eyes and ghostly faces, witnessing the confrontation that would echo through history. Dumbledore collapsed back into his chair. His hands covered his face. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I have spent 45 years building a plan to defeat Voldemort. 45 years of sacrifices. 45 years of compromises. 45 years of watching good people die because I could not save them and do what needed to be done. What needs to be done? Dumbledore lowered his hands. His eyes were red, hollow, haunted. You, Harry. You need to be done. The fragment must be destroyed. Voldemort must be defeated. And the only way to accomplish both, the only way, is for you to walk into the fire and emerge, changed. Changed how? Stronger. Darker. Lighter. I don't know. The Phoenix bond is unprecedented. Your mother's protection is unprecedented. Your entire existence is unprecedented. I have spent 11 years trying to predict what you would become, and I have failed. Completely. Utterly. Because you are not a pawn, Harry. You are not a weapon. You are not the savior I tried to shape. Then what am I? Dumbledore leaned forward. You are a choice. A choice that the universe has given itself. A chance. To be something new, something beyond light and dark, beyond prophecy and plan, beyond everything I have spent my life building. And you want me to make that choice now? No. Dumbledore shook his head. I want you to make that choice when you are ready. When you understand the cost. When you can look at me, at everything I've done, and decide freely what kind of person you want to be. Harry looked at the journal on the desk. At his mother's words, her warnings, her love. At the man who had orchestrated so much pain, and who now sat broken before him, waiting for judgment. I don't forgive you, Harry said. I know. I don't trust you. I know. But I understand. Harry's voice cracked. I understand why you did what you did. Not because it was right, but because you believed there was no other way. There wasn't. There is now. Dumbledore's eyes widened. The Phoenix bond. Harry continued. The seal's breaking. Fawkes choosing me over you. All of it, destroying your plans. Not because magic rebelled against you, but because there was a better way. A way you couldn't see because you were too busy controlling everything. A better way? Harry stood. Fawkes flew from the shadows and landed on his shoulder, wings spread, feathers blazing, eyes bright with fire. We're going to destroy the fragment, Harry said. Not through sacrifice. Not through death. Through trust. Trust in my magic. Trust in Fawkes. Trust in the people who love me, not because you shaped them into tools, but because they chose to stand beside me. And if that trust fails, then I die trying something new, instead of living as someone else's pawn. Dumbledore stared at him. For a long moment, the headmaster said nothing. Then, slowly, painfully, he smiled. Lily would be proud. He whispered. James too. They always hoped you would be. More. More than the prophecy. More than the plan. More than I ever dared to dream. Harry nodded. He picked up his mother's journal, held it close to his heart, and turned toward the door. Harry. He stopped. Whatever happens, Dumbledore said, whatever path you choose, know that I am sorry. For the seals. For the Dursleys. For the years I stole from you. Sorry doesn't fix anything. No, Dumbledore agreed. But it's a start. Harry walked out of the office. Fawkes trilled behind him, soft, sad, hopeful. And somewhere deep in Harry's chest, the bonds of prophecy began to break. The plan was over. The choice was beginning. End of chapter 11. Thank you.